My name is Claire Bennett. I was 31 years old when my parents left my grandfather outside a roadside motel with one suitcase, 2 days of medicine, and $43 in his wallet. They thought they had already taken everything that mattered: his money, his house, his choices, even the right to decide where he would sleep. By the end of the will reading, my mother was sitting so still that the gold bracelet on her wrist had stopped making noise against the table. My brother had gone pale. My father stared at a sealed envelope as if it had just spoken his name. They lost the one thing they had spent years assuming was already theirs. Not because I shouted, not because I threatened them, because my grandfather had kept records, and because long before they decided I was the least important person in the family, he had trusted me with the most important thing he owned. But I need to back up. The truth rarely enters a room with raised hands and a loud voice. Sometimes it arrives quietly, carrying a key, a folder, and every receipt someone hoped had been forgotten. If you have ever watched a family treat an older person like a burden the moment they stopped being useful, then you will understand why this story stayed with me. Tell me where you are watching from, and if you believe dignity matters even when no one else in the room seems to remember it, stay with me and subscribe. This began almost 2 years before the will reading on a wet Tuesday morning in March. I remember the date because I count things when I'm nervous. Dates, steps, rings before a call goes to voicemail. That morning, my mother called me 4 times before 8 o'clock. I was standing in the kitchen of my small apartment, waiting for my coffee to finish dripping into a chipped blue mug. The rain tapped against the window in thin, steady lines. 4 calls. No message after the first 3. On the 4th, she left 6 words. Call me. Your grandfather is being difficult. That was my mother's word for anyone who stopped agreeing with her. Difficult. She used it for waiters who brought the wrong dressing, for neighbors who parked too close to her mailbox, for my father when he forgot an anniversary dinner, for me when I asked questions she had already decided were disrespectful. My grandfather, Walter Bennett, was 80 at the time. He lived in the same 2-story brick house where my father had grown up. It sat on Hawthorne Lane in a town called Belmere, 40 minutes north of the city. The house had dark green shutters, a narrow front porch, and a maple tree that dropped red leaves across the lawn every October. Grandpa had bought it in 1978 for $36,000. He told me that number so many times I could say it before he did. 36,000, he would say, tapping the kitchen table. And the bank made me feel like I was asking for the moon. Then he would laugh. By the time my mother began calling him difficult, the house was worth a little over $400,000. That number mattered to her much more than the first one. I called her back while pulling on my coat. What happened? He won't let me take him to the bank. Her voice was calm. My mother almost never raised it. She did not need to. Denise Bennett could remove all the air from a conversation while speaking at the same volume someone might use to order tea. Why does he need to go to the bank? I asked. He has bills. He always has bills. Claire. One word. My name, sharpened. What bills? I asked. There was a pause. 3 seconds. I counted. His utilities? Property tax? Insurance? I am trying to organize things before something gets missed. Grandpa had paid his own bills every Friday morning for as long as I could remember. He used a wooden desk in the upstairs room that had once belonged to my father. He wrote checks in block letters and recorded every amount in a black ledger. He did not like automatic payments. Machines don't notice when they make mistakes, he always said. He had a point. My job taught me that. I worked in the estate administration department of Greenfield Regional Bank. My title was Senior Estate Operations Specialist, which sounded grander than it was. Most days, I sat behind 2 monitors reviewing trust distributions, tax notices, beneficiary forms, property records, and long chains of emails written by people trying to sound less angry than they were. I was not a lawyer. I was not a financial advisor. I was the person who noticed when a signature looked different from the one on file. I was the person who asked why a payment had been made twice. I was the person who found the date hidden in the 7th page of a document and explained why it changed everything. My parents described my job as bank paperwork. My younger brother, Evan, called it organized filing. Grandpa called it useful. That morning, I drove to Hawthorne Lane through heavy rain. The wipers clicked back and forth, 27 times between the highway exit and his street. My mother's white SUV was parked in the driveway when I arrived. My father's truck was behind it. That surprised me. Robert Bennett usually left for work by 7. He managed inventory at a commercial flooring company and treated punctuality as a moral value. I parked along the curb. Before I reached the porch, the front door opened. My mother stood there wearing beige trousers, a cream sweater, and small pearl earrings. Her hair was pinned into a smooth knot. She looked as if she had been preparing to receive guests, not arguing with an elderly man about his bank account. "You came," she said. "You called 4 times. I was concerned." She stepped aside. The house smelled like lemon polish and burnt toast. Grandpa sat at the kitchen table in a red flannel shirt, both hands wrapped around a mug. My father stood near the sink with his arms folded. No one spoke when I entered. I counted 5 seconds. Then Grandpa looked up. "Morning, kid." He had called me kid since I was 6. Even when I was old enough to administer 7-figure trusts, sign mortgage documents, and teach new employees how to spot forged beneficiary changes, I was still kid to him. "Morning," I said. "What's going on?" My mother answered before he could. "We are trying to help." Grandpa looked at his coffee. My father rubbed one hand over his jaw. I pulled out the chair beside Grandpa and sat down. "Help with what?" "The accounts," my mother said. "He has too many separate accounts. He forgets passwords. He misplaced a statement last month." "I did not misplace it," Grandpa said. "You left it in the den." "That is where I was reading it." My mother gave me a look. "See? Difficult." I asked Grandpa, "Do you want help with your accounts?" "I want someone to stop talking about me like I'm not sitting here." My father looked toward the window. That was his habit. When a room became uncomfortable, he found something outside it. My mother placed both palms on the counter. "No one is talking about you as if you are not here. We are worried because you are 80 years old and living alone." "I have been 80 for 4 months," Grandpa said. Nothing exploded. "This is not funny." I didn't laugh. I had to look down so my mother would not see my mouth move. Grandpa noticed. He always noticed. My mother turned to me. "He needs to add someone to his checking account." "Does he?" "Yes." "Did the bank say that?" "I am saying that." "That isn't the same thing." Her expression changed by less than an inch. With my mother, that was enough. "Claire, I asked you here for support." "No, you asked me here because he wouldn't go to the bank." My father finally spoke. "Let's not turn this into something." That was his phrase. "Let's not turn this into something." He used it when something had already become exactly what it was. I looked at Grandpa. "Do you want Mom added to your account?" He shook his head once. "No." My mother drew in a slow breath. "He does not understand how much work I am doing for him." "What work?" Grandpa asked. "I come over 3 times a week. You rearrange my kitchen. I buy your groceries. I pay you back. I schedule appointments. You schedule them for times I don't want." My father pushed away from the sink. "Dad?" Grandpa looked at him. My father stopped. For 1 second, something honest appeared on his face. Embarrassment, maybe, or shame. Then it passed. My mother picked up a folder from the counter. It was pale gray, with a clear plastic sleeve across the front. Inside the sleeve was a printed label. Walter Bennett, Financial Organization. The label was centered. Of course it was. "I made copies of the forms," she said. "All he has to do is sign." "Forms for what?" I asked. "Joint access. Bill payment authority. Emergency access. Those are 3 different things. They are all related. They have different legal effects." My mother gave a short laugh. "This is exactly why no one can have a normal conversation with you." I held out my hand. "May I see them?" She did not move. That told me more than the forms would have. Grandpa set his mug down. The ceramic touched the table with a soft click. "No one is signing anything today," he said. My mother turned to him. "Then what happens when you fall? What happens when you miss a tax payment? What happens when the electricity gets cut off because you forgot a bill?" "I have never forgotten an electric bill. You forgot my birthday 2 years ago. That is not the electric company." My father coughed into his hand. I looked at the gray folder again. "How long have you had those forms?" My mother's eyes returned to me. "Why?" "Because I asked. You were never the one he trusted with important things." The sentence landed cleanly, no hesitation. She said it as if she had been carrying it for years and finally found the right place to set it down. Grandpa's hand tightened around his mug. My father looked at the floor. I felt something old move inside me. Not surprise. Recognition. My mother had always known exactly where to press. When I was a child, it was my quietness. When I was a teenager, it was my clothes. When I chose a state university instead of the private college she wanted to mention to her friends, it was my lack of ambition. When I took the job at Greenfield, it was my fear of risk. Evan had opened a custom cabinetry business with money from our parents. He had a leased truck, a rented workshop, 3 employees, and a social media page filled with photographs of kitchens he claimed his company had built. My mother called him an entrepreneur. I worked steadily, paid my own rent, and built retirement savings. She called me careful. Careful was not praise in our family. It meant small. It meant afraid. It meant someone who watched life instead of owning it. Grandpa looked at my mother. "Denise?" She ignored him. "I did not mean that as an insult," she said to me. "That makes it better? I mean you have your own life. You are busy. You are not here every day. Neither is Evan." This has nothing to do with Evan. Everything had something to do with Evan. The family calendar had been built around him since he was born. His soccer games, his school awards, his business openings, his financial emergencies. My mother had once moved my college graduation dinner because Evan had a client meeting. She said the restaurant could not fit us at the later time he wanted, so we ate without a reservation at a chain restaurant beside the highway. Grandpa arrived first. He brought a small chocolate cake in a white bakery box and wrote, "Congratulations, Claire," across the top himself because the bakery had misspelled my name. That was how he loved people. Not loudly, accurately. I stood from the kitchen table. Grandpa said no. My mother lifted the gray folder. "And when something happens? He can name someone through a power of attorney if he chooses. He can set up limited bill access. He can use automatic alerts. He has options that do not require making his checking account jointly owned." Her eyes narrowed. "You are making this more complicated." "I'm making it specific. This is family. That is why it should be specific." The rain struck the window harder. My father picked up his keys. "I need to go." My mother turned. "We are not finished. I'm late." "You knew this would take time." He looked at Grandpa, then at me. "Call me later." He walked out. 4 steps from the kitchen to the hall. 7 more to the front door. The door closed. My mother watched him leave with an expression I had seen many times. She would remember it. She would bring it up later, not as anger, but as evidence. Then she placed the gray folder into her handbag. "Fine," she said. "When a bill gets missed, Claire can handle it." "I already handle my bills," Grandpa said. My mother looked at him. "We will discuss this when you are calmer." "I am calm." She picked up her coat from the back of a chair. At the door, she stopped and turned toward me. "I hope you understand that creating conflict does not make you useful." Then she left. The house became very quiet. Grandpa lifted his coffee and took a sip. "Cold," he said. I carried the mug to the microwave. He watched me press the buttons. 40 seconds, he said. "That is too long. 30 makes it warm. 40 makes it coffee." I set it for 35, a compromise. He smiled. While the microwave hummed, I looked at him more closely. His hair had gone completely white in the last year. His hands were thinner. A purple mark showed beneath the skin near his left wrist, probably from a blood test. But his eyes were clear, sharp, present. Did you ask Mom to make those forms? I asked. No. Did she explain what they were? She said they would make things easier. For who? That, he said, is the question you always ask. The microwave beeped. I placed the mug in front of him and sat down. He took one sip. 35, he said. You may be onto something. I waited. He stared into the mug. After a moment, he said, Your mother thinks I am confused. Are you? Sometimes. His honesty made me pause. He looked up. I forget why I walk into a room. I forget where I put my glasses while wearing them. Last week I called the pharmacy twice because I didn't remember the first call. That happens. Yes, but I know what a bank account is. I know. I know who I want in it. I nodded. He touched one finger to the table. There are things you don't know, Claire. That could have meant anything. Family history, money, his health. I did not push. Grandpa trusted silence more than pressure. So I sat with him while the rain eased. We talked about a loose gutter over the back porch. He complained about the price of eggs. I checked the smoke detector in the hallway because he said it had chirped during the night. Before I left, he walked me to the front door. Your mother was wrong, he said. About what? He placed one hand on the frame. You being useful. I looked at him. He gave me a small smile. She is wrong about many things, but that one especially. I drove back to the city thinking the argument was over. It was not. It was the first clean mark on a page that would eventually fill itself. For the next 3 months, my mother behaved as though the morning at Grandpa's house had never happened. That was another one of her talents. She could erase conflict by refusing to acknowledge it. She would invite you to dinner, ask about work, and pass the potatoes with the same hand that had pushed a knife into your most private wound. If you brought up what she had said, she looked surprised. I don't remember saying that. Or, you must have misunderstood. Or, her favorite, I'm sorry you heard it that way. She never apologized for what she did, only for the fact that your ears had worked. Evan's 35th birthday was in April. My parents held a dinner at a steakhouse called Miller Row, where the menus had no prices printed beside the specials, and the servers folded your napkin when you left the table. Grandpa came wearing a navy jacket and a tie with small gold squares. He looked tired. My mother seated him at the far end of the table beside my father, away from me. Evan arrived 20 minutes late with his wife, Lauren. He kissed my mother on both cheeks and placed his phone on the table before sitting down. Sorry, he said. Client issue. My mother smiled as though he had returned from surgery. Of course. No one asked what the issue was. Evan always had client issues. Sometimes he had supplier issues, sometimes payment issues, sometimes scheduling issues. They all ended with someone else giving him money. Halfway through dinner, he announced that his company had secured a major contract to build cabinets for 12 luxury townhomes. My mother pressed both hands together. I knew it. My father raised his glass. Lauren smiled, but not with her eyes. I asked, who is the developer? Evan looked at me. Why? I was curious. It is a private deal. Are the permits approved? My mother sighed. Claire. What? Can you let him enjoy his success for one evening? I asked a question. You always ask questions. Grandpa looked across the table at me. His mouth moved slightly. He was trying not to smile. The waiter brought a bottle of wine Evan had ordered. $210. I knew because I had looked at the wine list before he arrived. My mother told the waiter to place it on Grandpa's side of the bill. Dad wanted to treat us, she said. Grandpa looked at her. I did? She laughed. You said dinner was your gift. I said I would pay for Evan's dinner. It is his birthday dinner. There are 8 people here. Dad, please. He looked down at his plate. No one else spoke. I counted 4 seconds. Then I said, put the wine on mine. My mother turned. That is unnecessary. So is a $200 bottle of wine. Evan leaned back. Here we go. I looked at him. What does that mean? It means you always make money uncomfortable. I did not order it. You work at a bank. Maybe relax. Grandpa placed his fork down. I'll pay for the wine. I looked at him. He shook his head once. Not here. That was what the look meant. Not tonight. I let it go. But when the check came, I watched my mother take Grandpa's credit card from her wallet. Not his wallet. Hers. She handed it to the server without asking. The total was $862 before the tip. Grandpa had eaten soup and half a baked potato. In the parking lot, I waited beside his car. My mother was helping Lauren arrange birthday gifts in the back of the SUV. Evan stood nearby answering a call. My father had gone inside to use the restroom. Grandpa walked toward me slowly. Do you still drive yourself? I asked. So far. Mom has your credit card. He looked toward her. She buys groceries. Why does she keep the card? It saves time. Whose idea was that? He put both hands into his coat pockets. Claire. That isn't an answer. No. Rainwater shone beneath the parking lot lights. A car passed behind us, tires whispering over wet pavement. I lowered my voice. Do you know how much dinner cost? He looked toward the restaurant. More than it should have. $862. His eyebrows lifted. With the wine? Before the tip. He stood very still. Then he looked at my mother again. She was laughing at something Lauren had said. Did you agree to pay for everyone? I asked. I offered to take Evan to dinner. That's not the same thing. No. Do you want your card back? He did not answer immediately. I counted 6 seconds. Yes, he said. I walked toward my mother. Grandpa caught my elbow. Not tonight. She has your card. I know. You said you want it back. I do. Then ask for it. He looked at me with an expression that made me stop. It was not confusion. It was fear. Small, controlled, carefully hidden fear. I will, he said. When? Tomorrow. My mother noticed us looking at her. She waved. Grandpa lifted one hand. I did not. That night, I wrote the date in a notebook. April 18th, steakhouse. Credit card in Denise's wallet. Walter did not know full amount. I told myself I was only making a note because details mattered. That was true. It was not the whole truth. The whole truth was that something had changed. Not in Grandpa. In me. I had spent years believing that family discomfort should be handled gently, quietly, that asking direct questions made me unkind, that pushing after someone said not tonight was a form of disrespect. But there is a difference between respecting someone's pace and helping them hide from danger. I was beginning to see it. If you are already feeling that tightness in your chest because you know where this is going, comment the word key. That one word became the center of everything later. Stay with me, because the card in my mother's wallet was only the beginning. 2 days after the birthday dinner, Grandpa called me at work. I was reviewing a trust account that had received a property tax bill for land it no longer owned. My phone vibrated beside the keyboard. Grandpa rarely called during business hours. I answered immediately. Are you all right? Good afternoon to you, too. Are you all right? Yes. I leaned back. What happened? Your mother returned the card. I closed the document on my screen. Did you ask her? I did. And? She said I embarrassed her. How? By asking. I rubbed my forehead. Did she give it back? Yes. Is that all? A pause. 7 seconds. No. I waited. She wants me to sign something at the bank next week. The same forms? I don't know. Did you read them? She did not leave them. Did she explain them? She said it would allow her to help if I became unable to manage things. That could mean several different documents. That is what I said. I could hear a television in the background, an old game show, applause, then music. Do not sign anything you haven't read, I said. I know. And do not go alone. I know that too. Do you want me to come? He did not answer. I looked through the glass wall of my cubicle. My supervisor was speaking with someone near the printer. Grandpa? I have an appointment with Miriam Hale on Thursday. The name was familiar. Miriam Hale? My lawyer. I didn't know you had one. There are many things you don't know. He said it lightly this time. What time? 10. Do you want me there? No. I felt an unreasonable flash of hurt. Then he added, Not yet. I looked at the rain streaks drying on the office window. Okay. Don't sound like that. Like what? Like a person trying very hard to sound okay. I smiled despite myself. I'm fine. That's the word your mother uses for everything that used to be love. I did not know what to say to that. He cleared his throat. Come for lunch Saturday. I will. And bring the good bread. From Bell Street? Yes. It costs $9 a loaf. I have money. The line went quiet. Neither of us spoke for a moment. Then he said, At least, I believe I do. Saturday arrived bright and cold. I bought the bread from a bakery near my apartment. Thick sourdough with a dark crust. $9.50. Grandpa reimbursed me with a $10 bill and refused the change. He had made tomato soup from scratch. The kitchen smelled like garlic, butter, and basil. A radio played softly on the counter. We ate at the same oak table where my mother had placed the gray folder. After lunch, Grandpa washed the bowls while I dried them. He still insisted on washing dishes in water hot enough to remove fingerprints. What did Miriam say? I asked. He placed a bowl in the rack. She said I should not sign anything I do not understand. I could have told you that. She charges more. Did you show her the forms? Your mother has them. Did Miriam ask why Mom wants access? Yes. And what did you say? That Denise believes I'm losing my mind. The dish towel stopped in my hands. Those were your words? No, hers. When did she say that? Last Sunday? I set the bowl down. What exactly did she say? Grandpa turned off the water. She said people make bad decisions when they get older. She said the family needed protection. Protection from you? He picked up the towel and dried his hands. Protection from uncertainty. That sounds like Mom. Yes. He walked toward the hall. Come upstairs. I followed him. The staircase had 13 steps. I counted them as a child and had never stopped. Grandpa moved slowly, one hand on the rail. At the top, he turned left toward the small bedroom my father had used before college. The room had become an office. A wooden desk stood beneath the window. The walls were lined with books, old photographs, and framed certificates from Grandpa's years working as a civil surveyor for the county. He had spent 38 years measuring land. Property lines, road boundaries, drainage paths. He liked facts that could be marked with stakes and written into records. On the desk sat his black ledger. Beside it was a small metal cash box. He opened the top drawer and removed a ring holding 3 keys. 2 were silver, 1 was brass. The brass key was old and narrow with a round head darkened by years of handling. He held it between his finger and thumb. This does not open anything in the house, he said. I looked at him. What does it open? A box. What box? One at Hale and Turner. Miriam's law office. He placed the key in my palm. It was heavier than it looked. Why are you giving this to me? I am not giving it to you. You just put it in my hand. I am showing it to you. He reached into the drawer and removed a small brown envelope. On the front, in his block handwriting, was my full name. Claire Elaine Bennett. He slid the key into the envelope. Then he sealed it. You will keep this. My throat tightened. For what? If I ask for it, you bring it to Miriam. What is in the box? Documents. What kind? The kind that answer questions. Grandpa. He sat in the desk chair. I remained standing. Sunlight fell across the floorboards between us. There are things I arranged a long time ago, he said, before your mother became interested in organizing my life. I held the envelope. Is this about your will? Partly. Does Mom know? No. Does Dad? No. Does Evan? He almost laughed. Evan does not know where his own insurance papers are. I sat on the edge of the bed. What did you arrange? He leaned back and studied me. Why do you think land records exist? I frowned. So people know who owns property. And why are wills written? So people know what happens after someone dies. And why do banks keep statements? To show what happened to money. He nodded. A person's memory can be questioned. Records are harder to insult. That sentence stayed with me. I looked at the envelope again. Why me? He rubbed one thumb against the edge of the desk. Because you read what is put in front of you. That cannot be the only reason. No. What's the other reason? You listen when people answer. I wanted to ask more. I had 100 questions. But Grandpa's face had closed in the quiet way that meant he was finished for now. So I placed the envelope inside my handbag. He pointed at it. Not in there. Why? Your mother opens handbags. She does not open mine. She opened your Aunt Carol's at Thanksgiving in 2009. I stared at him. How do you remember that? She was looking for mints. I moved the envelope into the inner pocket of my coat. Better? Yes. Then he opened his black ledger and showed me a page dated 3 weeks earlier. Several lines had been marked with small question signs. Grocery Market, $184.63. Home Supply Center, $729.18. Cash withdrawal, $600. Oak Ridge Furnishings, $1,146.90. These are from your checking account? I asked. Yes. Did you make them? The groceries. May. Shh. What do you mean, maybe? Your mother bought groceries. Did she spend $184? She gave me a receipt for $92. I leaned closer. The home supply store? She said she bought handrails for the bathroom. $729? She bought one handrail. Oak Ridge Furnishings? He shook his head. The cash withdrawal? No. I sat very still. Did you give Mom your debit card PIN? She watched me enter it. When? At the pharmacy. Did she ever use the card without you? He looked toward the window. Grandpa. Once? Once that you know of? He turned back to me. Yes. I took out my phone. Let's call the bank. His hand came down over the ledger. No. We need to know what these charges are. I know what they are. Then tell me. Your mother said she would put the money back. The room seemed to shrink. How much? She said Evan needed help covering payroll. The furniture store was for Evan? No. Then what was it? She bought a dining table. For you? He looked at me. I already knew. For her house, I said. She said the old table was damaged. Why did your account pay for it? She called it an early gift. Did you agree? Not exactly. What does not exactly mean? It means she explained it after she ordered it. I stood. The envelope in my coat pocket pressed against my side. How much has she taken? Claire. How much? I don't know. You keep records of everything. I kept records of what I knew. That frightened me more than any number could have. I looked at the black ledger. May I take pictures of these pages? He closed it. No. Why? Because I have not decided what I am doing. Someone used your money without clear permission. She is my daughter. That does not change what happened. It changes what happens next. I stepped away from the desk. You called a lawyer? Yes. You gave me a key to a document box? Yes. You showed me charges you did not approve? Yes. But you don't want me to keep a record? He looked tired, not confused. tired. She has always needed more, he said. Even as a girl. More attention, more proof, more room. If someone else had something, she believed it meant less for her. That is not an excuse. No. Then why are you protecting her? He lowered his eyes. Because fathers get used to standing between their children and consequences. I had no answer. He touched the ledger. But sometimes, he said, the consequence grows larger behind you while you are standing there. I sat again. For several minutes, neither of us spoke. The clock on the wall ticked, 11 times before he looked up. I will talk to Miriam, he said. When? Monday. Promise me. He gave me a look. I am 80, not 8. Promise me anyway. I promise. I left his house carrying the brass key in my coat pocket. At home, I placed the envelope inside a fireproof lockbox beneath my bed. I did not tell my mother. I did not tell my father. I did not tell Evan. For the next few weeks, I waited. Grandpa met with Miriam twice. He told me only that she was reviewing some documents and that he had made certain choices. He did not explain the choices. I respected that, or I tried to. Then small things began happening. A utility bill was paid late. That had never happened before. Grandpa received a notice from his homeowner's insurance company saying the automatic renewal payment had failed. He did not use automatic payments. My mother had tried to set one up and connected it to the wrong account. A check to the pharmacy was returned because she had moved money from Grandpa's checking account into what she called a reserve account. Grandpa had not known the reserve account existed. When I asked him whether he had signed paperwork for it, he said he remembered signing something at the kitchen table. My mother had covered the top half of the page with another sheet. That was the moment my concern hardened into something else. I drove to my parents' house on a Sunday afternoon. They lived in a newer development called Cedar Ridge, where every lawn was the same size and the mailboxes stood in matching black posts. My mother's white SUV was in the driveway. Beside it sat Evan's truck. His company logo stretched across both doors. Bennett Custom Interiors. The word custom was written in gold. I rang the bell. My father opened the door. He looked surprised. Claire? Is Mom here? He glanced behind him. What's wrong? Is she here? Yes. I stepped inside. My mother and Evan were sitting at the dining table, the new dining table, oak with a wide center leaf and 6 cream-colored chairs. A sales brochure from Oak Ridge Furnishings had listed the same set for $1,149. Close enough? My mother closed a laptop when she saw me. What are you doing here? I looked at the table. Grandpa bought this? Her face did not change. He gave us money toward it. He said you ordered it first. He approved it. Before or after? Evan leaned back in his chair. Can we not do this? I looked at him. Did Grandpa cover your payroll? My father moved toward the kitchen. My mother stood. You need to lower your voice. My voice is not raised. This is my home. And that is Grandpa's table. Her eyes flashed. He wanted us to have it. Did he? Yes. Did he want to give Evan $600 too? Evan looked at my mother. There, one quick look. Enough. I turned to him. How much have you taken? Taken? Borrowed then. This has nothing to do with you. It has a very thing to do with Grandpa. He offered to help. Did he? Yes. When? Last month. Before or after Mom withdrew cash? Evan stood. I'm not answering questions like I'm on trial. My mother stepped between us without appearing to. She had always been good at that, rearranging the room until someone else was outside it. Claire, you came here without calling, accused your brother of stealing, and insulted me in my own dining room. I asked where the money went. You work in a bank office. That does not give you authority over this family. I never said it did. Then stop acting like it. My father opened the refrigerator. He looked inside without taking anything out. I turned toward him. Dad, did you know Mom moved money out of Grandpa's checking account? He kept looking into the refrigerator. Your mother is helping him. That is not what I asked. He closed the door. You should talk to her. I am talking to her. Then leave me out of it. The words were quiet. That made them worse. My mother folded her arms. Your grandfather is becoming forgetful. I am trying to protect what he has. By spending it, I am managing it. For who? Her jaw tightened. You were never the one he trusted with important things. The line again. A drum beat. This time, Evan heard it. My father heard it. No one objected. I looked at the new table, the closed laptop, my brother's expensive watch, and my father's careful silence. Then I looked at my mother. You keep saying that. Because it is true. I thought about the brass key beneath my bed. I thought about the envelope with my full name written across it. I thought about Grandpa's black ledger and the question marks beside charges he did not understand. I could have told her. I could have said she was wrong. Instead, I said, give him back control of his account. He has control. Then why did his insurance payment fail? Her eyes changed, only slightly. How do you know about that? He told me. He should not be discussing private finances with you. He can discuss them with anyone he chooses. He does not understand the risk. What risk? That people might take advantage of him. The room went silent. My father stared at the floor. Evan rubbed the back of his neck. I counted 3 seconds, then 4, then 5. My mother did not seem to hear herself. Or maybe she did. I picked up my handbag. I am going to ask him to request full statements. She laughed once. You cannot request anything. I did not say I would. You are creating panic over normal family support. Normal support does not require hiding pages while someone signs. Her face lost color. Evan looked between us. What pages? My mother ignored him. What did Walter tell you? It was the first time I had ever heard her use Grandpa's first name when speaking about him to me. Not Dad, not your grandfather. Wow. There's a person standing between her and something she wanted. He told me enough. She stepped closer. You need to be careful. Is that a threat? Do not be dramatic. What should I call it? I am saying that an elderly man can become confused when someone fills his head with suspicion. I did not fill his head with anything. You have always resented the fact that he helped Evan. Evan shook his head. This is ridiculous. I turned to him. Then show Grandpa the records. What records? The payroll money, the amount, the date, the repayment plan. His mouth opened. Nothing came out. My mother spoke for him. It was a gift. Grandpa called it help. Same difference. No, I said. It isn't. I walked toward the door. My father followed me into the hall. Claire. I stopped. He lowered his voice. You are making your mother feel accused. She is accused. That is not fair. Did Grandpa approve every transaction? He looked toward the dining room. I don't know. Do you want to know? He did not answer. That told me where he stood. Not with my mother exactly. Not with Grandpa. He stood in the safest empty space he could find and called it neutrality. I opened the door. Behind me, my mother said, when this family breaks apart, remember who started it. I turned. No, I said. Remember who kept records. Then I left. Grandpa called me before I reached the end of the street. His voice was low. Your mother just called. That was fast. What did you do? I asked questions. I told you I was handling it. Are you? Silence. I gripped the steering wheel. Grandpa, I'm not trying to take over. I know. Then why do you sound angry? Because I'm embarrassed. My anger disappeared. He continued. I should not need my granddaughter to protect me from my daughter. You should not need anyone to protect you from her. No. A car honked behind me. I had stopped too long at a green light. I drove forward. I'm sorry, I said. For what? For going there without telling you. That was not wise. No. But it was not wrong. I exhaled. Did you talk to Miriam? Yes. What did she say? That records matter. What else? That I should remove Denise's access. Will you? I already did. I almost missed the next turn. When? Friday. Does Mom know? She does now. I pictured the closed laptop, the new table, my mother's face when I mentioned the failed insurance payment. What happened to the reserve account? The bank moved the money back. How much? He was quiet. How much, Grandpa? $12,480. My hands tightened around the wheel. Was all of that yours? Yes. What was she planning to do with it? She said it was for emergencies. What emergency? She did not say. Did she spend any of it? Some. How much? 3,200. On what? I do not know yet. I pulled into a grocery store parking lot and stopped the car. My heart was beating too hard. Did you report it? Miriam is helping me request a full accounting. Good. Claire. Yes? I need you to listen. I am. Do not confront your mother again. I stared through the windshield. A woman pushed a shopping cart across the lot. A child in a yellow coat walked beside her, stepping into every puddle. Why? Because she thinks this is still an argument. What is it? A record. His voice was steady. This is not revenge. It is a record, and records do not improve when people are warned to clean them. I sat back. He was right. I knew he was right. At work, we never called a person before preserving account history. We never invited explanations before securing copies. We did not accuse. We documented. Truth was not a hammer. It was a line drawn carefully through every fact. I understand, I said. Do you? Yes. Good. Then his voice changed. Softer. There is something else. What? Your mother came to the house this morning. After the bank removed her access? Yes. What did she do? She brought papers. The back of my neck went cold. What papers? She said they would give her authority to manage the house. Did you sign them? No. Where are they? She took them. Did you read the title? I tried. What did it say? He paused. Durable power of attorney. I closed my eyes. Anything else? There was a property document. What kind? I could not see the whole page. Did she cover it? Yes. With another sheet? Yes. The same method. Not confusion, not misunderstanding. A method. What did she say when you refused? She cried. My mother's tears were never loud. They arrived perfectly. A slow shine in her eyes, a broken breath, one hand touching her chest as though pain had found her unexpectedly. What did she say? I asked. Grandpa was quiet for so long that I thought the call had dropped. Then he repeated her words. You should be grateful we are willing to do this much. The sentence sat between us. I wrote it down after the call ended. Not because I thought I would forget it. Because Grandpa had taught me that memory and proof were different things. I opened the notebook where I had recorded the steakhouse charge and added the date, the time, and every detail I could remember. May 7th. Denise brought durable power of attorney and unidentified property document. Covered part of the document with another page. Walter refused to sign. Denise said, You should be grateful we are willing to do this much. I underlined the sentence once. Then I closed the notebook and placed it beside the brass key in the lockbox. For the next month, my mother did not call me. My father sent 2 short messages. Hope work is good. Then a week later, your mother is hurt. I did not answer either one. Grandpa and I spoke almost every evening. He told me about ordinary things. The neighbor's dog had dug beneath the fence. The grocery store had stopped carrying the tea he liked. Someone had left a flyer for gutter cleaning on his porch. He did not mention the accounts unless I asked. When I did, he answered carefully. Miriam was reviewing the withdrawals. The bank had provided 18 months of statements. Several checks carried signatures that looked like his, but were not. Grandpa had not reported them as fraud. Not yet. That choice frustrated me. I understood why he hesitated. Reporting the checks would mean naming his own daughter. It would mean admitting that the person who said she was helping him had been moving money without his knowledge. Still, understanding did not make waiting easy. At work, I dealt with families after someone died. That was when money changed shape. A dining table became an asset. A necklace became evidence of favoritism. A house where everyone had once gathered for holidays became a number on an inventory sheet. People who had not visited in years suddenly remembered promises no one else had heard. I had watched brothers stop speaking over a lawn tractor worth $900. I had seen a daughter challenge her mother's handwritten grocery notes because she believed $12 had been counted twice. Money did not always create greed. Sometimes it only removed the cover. My family's cover was still in place. My mother continued hosting dinners. Evan continued talking about the townhome contract. My father continued going to work and coming home as if silence could keep a roof from collapsing. Then, in June, Grandpa fell. He was carrying a basket of laundry from the upstairs bedroom when his left knee gave out. He fell backward onto 3 steps and struck his shoulder against the wall. He did not break a bone. The emergency room doctor called it a severe bruise and a mild sprain. My mother called it proof. I found out about the fall from my father. He called at 6:12 on a Thursday evening while I was still at work. "Your grandfather is in the hospital." I stood so quickly my chair rolled into the cubicle wall. "What happened?" "He fell." "Is he conscious?" "Yes." "Did he hit his head?" "They don't think so." "Which hospital?" "Belmere General." "I'm leaving now." I reached the emergency department 48 minutes later. My mother stood near the nurse's desk holding Grandpa's coat. My father sat in a plastic chair, turning his wedding ring around his finger. Evan was not there. My mother saw me first. "You came." There was accusation in the words, as though my arrival had disrupted something she had arranged. "Where is he?" "Being examined." "Has he had imaging?" "They took him for an X-ray." "What did the doctor say?" "That he should not be living alone." My father looked up. "That isn't exactly what he said." My mother turned toward him. "He said falls are dangerous at his age. He said someone should check on him. That means the same thing." "No," I said. "It doesn't." She faced me. "We are not doing this here." I asked what the doctor said. And I answered. My father looked tired. There were dark half-circles beneath his eyes. He had changed in the last few months, not dramatically, just enough that I noticed. His shoulders curved forward more than before. He looked like a man trying to take up less space in his own life. A nurse opened the door and called my grandfather's name. My mother stepped forward. "I'm his daughter." The nurse looked at her clipboard. "He asked for Claire." My mother stopped. The nurse looked at me. "Are you Claire Bennett?" "Yes." "You can come back." I followed her through 2 sets of doors. Grandpa was sitting upright in a hospital bed with his left arm supported in a sling. His face looked gray beneath the fluorescent lights. He smiled when he saw me. "Kid." I went to him. "Are you hurt anywhere else?" "Only my pride." "That isn't funny." It was a little funny. I looked at the purple swelling spreading beneath his collarbone. "What happened?" "My knee stopped being loyal." "Did you feel dizzy?" "No." "Did you black out?" "No." "Did you hit your head?" "No." "You're sure?" I counted the steps on the way down. I stared at him. 3. Despite myself, I smiled. A doctor entered and explained that Grandpa could go home that evening if someone stayed with him for at least 24 hours. His shoulder was badly bruised, but there was no fracture. He needed rest, ice, and a follow-up visit with his regular physician. "I'll stay," I said. Grandpa nodded. The doctor continued. "We should also discuss fall prevention, handrails, better lighting, possibly moving the laundry setup downstairs." "My daughter bought a handrail," Grandpa said. "One handrail," I said. The doctor looked between us. "One can help." "It is still in the box," Grandpa said. I closed my eyes. Of course it is. My mother was allowed into the room while the nurse prepared the discharge papers. She walked directly to the side of the bed. "This proves it," she said. Grandpa looked at her. "Hello to you too. You cannot stay in that house alone. I am not discussing this tonight." "You fell down the stairs." "Yes. That part has been thoroughly reported. You could have died." "But I didn't." My mother's eyes filled. "Perfectly. You think this is a joke because you don't understand what this does to us." Grandpa's expression changed. "What it does to you?" "I am the one who gets the calls. I am the one expected to fix everything." "No one called you," he said. She blinked. "What?" "The neighbor called the ambulance. The hospital called Robert because he is listed as an emergency contact." My father stood near the door. My mother looked at him. He said nothing. Grandpa continued. "You were not expected to fix anything." Her tears vanished as quickly as they had appeared. "You need care." "I need help moving the washing machine." "You need supervision." "No." "You are not safe." Grandpa looked at me. I knew what he was asking. Not for permission. For support. "The doctor said someone should stay tonight," I said. "I'll do that. Then we can arrange safer laundry access and a home assessment." My mother turned. "A home assessment?" "Someone can review the stairs, bathrooms, lighting, rugs, and entrances." "He needs to move." "Where?" "With us." Grandpa laughed once. Not kindly. My father looked down. My mother's face became very still. "We have room." "You have a guest room," Grandpa said. "Yes. The one with the exercise bicycle, your sewing cabinet, and 12 boxes from Evan's business. We can clear it." "For how long?" "As long as necessary." Grandpa shifted carefully against the pillow. "And what happens to my house?" "No one is talking about your house." My mother said it too quickly. I noticed. So did Grandpa. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, "I'm going home." She turned to me. "Say something." "I already did." "You are encouraging him." "I'm listening to him." "He is not thinking clearly." The nurse entered with the discharge papers. Grandpa answered every question correctly. His address, the date, his medications, the name of his doctor. The nurse asked whether he felt safe returning home. He looked directly at my mother. "Yes," he said, "as long as I decide who enters it." My mother left before the wheelchair arrived. She waited in the parking lot. When I pushed Grandpa through the emergency entrance, she stood beside her SUV with her arms crossed. My father was loading the hospital bag into my car. She walked toward us. "I will come over tomorrow morning," she said. Grandpa adjusted the sling. "No. You need breakfast. Claire will be there. She has work." "I took the day off," I said. My mother looked at me. "You already arranged that?" "I emailed my supervisor." "Of course you did." I helped Grandpa into the passenger seat. My mother lowered her voice. "This cannot continue." "What cannot?" I asked. "You interfering?" I closed the car door gently. "I'm taking him home." "You know what I mean?" "Yes," I said. "I do." She looked past me toward Grandpa. Then she said, "You were never the one he trusted with important things." Third time. The words had lost some of their force. Not because they hurt less, because I knew something she did not. The brass key was still beneath my bed. My name was still written on the envelope, and Grandpa had asked the nurse to call me. I stepped closer to my mother. You should stop saying that. Why? Because one day you may hear the answer. For the first time, she looked uncertain, only for a second. Then my father closed the trunk, and the moment passed. At Grandpa's house, I made a bed for myself on the living room sofa. He hated being helped upstairs, but he allowed me to walk behind him. 13 steps, slowly. I counted each one. He heard me. Stop that. I'm not doing anything. You are counting. No. 11, he said as we reached the top. 12, 13. I helped him change into a button-front shirt so he would not have to lift his injured arm. He sat on the edge of the bed while I arranged his medication and a glass of water on the nightstand. You are hovering, he said. I am supervising. That word sounds familiar. I sat in the chair near the window. Mom wants your house. He did not answer. She asked what would happen to it without asking. I noticed. Do you think the property document she wanted you to sign was a deed? Possibly. Did Miriam find out? She believes it may have been a transfer on death deed. I leaned forward. That would pass the property outside the will. Yes. Did Mom prepare it herself? Miriam does not know. Did you authorize anyone to prepare it? No. My pulse quickened. Then someone drafted a document to transfer your house without your request. That appears to be the case. And you're still not reporting this? I am still gathering information. You could lose the house. No. You don't know that. He looked at me. I do. There was something in his voice. Certainty, not hope. I waited. He adjusted the edge of the sling. The house is not available to be transferred by me alone. I frowned. What does that mean? It means there is another document. In the box? Yes. What document? You will know when you need to. Grandpa, this isn't a mystery novel. No. Mystery novels have fewer bank forms. I did not smile. He sighed. The house is protected. How? Legally. That is not enough information. It is enough for tonight. I stood and walked to the bedroom door. Claire. I turned. Your mother believes possession and ownership are the same thing. What does that mean? It means she thinks that if she holds the card, the money is hers. If she moves into a room, the room is hers. If she takes care of something, she has earned the right to control it. He looked toward the hallway. I taught her some of that. No, I did. How? By rescuing her every time a choice became expensive. His voice was quiet. I paid her credit cards when she was 23. I paid the deposit on their first house. I helped Robert after he lost his job. I paid Evan's college tuition when your parents had already spent the education account. I had not known that. Why didn't you pay mine? The question came out before I could stop it. Grandpa looked at me. They did not ask. I laughed once. Small, bitter sound. They told me there was no money. His face changed. What? They said you had helped Evan because his program was more expensive. They said I should take loans because it would teach me responsibility. Grandpa stared at me. How much did you borrow? 38,000. He looked down. For a long time, he said nothing. I watched the clock on the nightstand. 9 seconds. 14. 21. Finally, he said, I did not know. I know. No, he said. You do not. His voice broke on the last word. That frightened me more than his fall. I gave your mother money for both of you. I sat again. What? 50,000 each. My mouth went dry. When?
the year Evan started college. She said she would place your share in a separate account until you enrolled. I thought about my mother sitting beside me at the financial aid office. I remembered the folders she carried. Blue that time. She had pointed to the loan options and told me not to be afraid of investing in myself.
She had asked me to sign where the advisor placed yellow tabs. How much did she give Evan? I asked. All of his tuition. Housing, too, I believe. And mine? Grandpa looked at me. I don't know. The room felt too warm. I stood and opened the window 2 inches. Cool air entered. I counted 3 breaths before speaking. Did you keep proof of the transfer? Yes. Where? In the box. Of course. He rubbed his forehead. I should have checked. You trusted your daughter. I trusted the wrong part of her. I turned toward him. What part? The part that wanted to look like a good mother. I slept badly that night. At 2 in the morning, I heard Grandpa moving upstairs and went to check on him. He was standing in the hallway, one hand on the wall. What are you doing? Going to the bathroom. You should have called me. I am capable of crossing a hallway. You fell 12 hours ago. 3 steps. That does not make it better. He let me walk beside him. In the morning, I called a home safety specialist recommended by the hospital. By noon, we had arranged for a second stair rail, brighter hallway lights, non-slip bathroom flooring, and a laundry service until the washer and dryer could be moved downstairs. The cost was $1,830. Grandpa paid by check. His hand was steady when he signed it. My mother arrived at 1:27. She had not called. I saw her through the kitchen window and met her at the front door. You cannot come in. Her eyebrows lifted. This is my father's house. He said he doesn't want visitors. I am not a visitor. You don't live here. She looked past me. Where is he? Resting. I brought food. She held up a large glass dish covered with foil. What is it? Chicken casserole. He hates chicken casserole. He ate it when you were children. He also smoked cigarettes when Dad was a child. People change. Her mouth tightened. Move. No. She stared at me. I had never blocked a doorway from my mother before. The act felt larger than it was. 1 foot against the frame, 1 hand on the knob, nothing dramatic. Still, she looked at me as if I had broken a law. Claire, she said slowly, you are taking advantage of a vulnerable man. The accusation was so perfect that I almost admired it. You tried to have him sign a power of attorney with part of the page covered. He told you that? Yes. He misunderstood. What did he misunderstand? The papers were for his protection. Then why cover them? I was explaining one section at a time. Why take them when he refused? They contained private information. His private information. Her grip tightened around the casserole dish. You are not qualified to make these judgments. I don't need a qualification to know that consent requires seeing the whole page. My father's truck appeared at the end of the street. My mother looked over her shoulder. You called him? No. He must have followed you, I said. She did not appreciate that. My father parked behind her SUV and walked toward the porch. He looked from my mother to me. What's happening? Your daughter won't let me see Dad. He is sleeping, I said. He fell, my mother said. He needs his family. He asked for space. From his own daughter? Yes. My father rubbed his jaw. Maybe we should come back later. My mother turned toward him. Whose side are you on? He looked tired again. I'm not choosing sides. You chose when you followed me here. I didn't follow you. I came to check on Dad. With no food, she said. He glanced at the casserole. Denise? Grandpa's voice came from behind me. I turned. He stood in the hallway wearing a gray sweater over his sling. I thought you were resting, I said. I was until someone brought chicken casserole. My mother's face softened instantly. Dad? No,
She stopped. Grandpa moved closer. This is still my home. I know. No, you don't. Her eyes began to shine. He continued before the tears could form. You will call before coming. I am your daughter. You will call. What if you don't answer? Then I do not want company. What if you have fallen? Then Claire will find me buried under all the new handrails. My father looked down, hiding a smile. My mother did not. This is humiliating, she said. Grandpa nodded. Yes. She blinked. He looked at the dish in her hands. You may leave the casserole. I made it for you, and I am allowing it into the house. Her face reddened. Grandpa opened the door wider, took the dish with his good hand, and passed it to me. Then he looked at my father. Robert, you can come in for coffee. My mother stared at him. You are excluding me. Yes. The word was calm, final. My father stepped onto the porch. My mother moved closer to Grandpa. I have done nothing but help you. You moved money without asking. I put it back. After the bank removed your access, I was protecting it. From whom? She looked at me. There it was. The shift. The new story forming. From people who suddenly became interested. Grandpa followed her gaze. Claire has been interested in me since before my house had equity. My mother's face hardened. She is turning you against us. No, he said. She is asking what you spent. I told you. No. You explained what you believed you deserved. My father closed his eyes. My mother looked at him. Say something. He opened them. I think we should leave. We? Yes. Grandpa gave him a long look. For a second, my father appeared almost relieved. Then my mother turned and walked to her SUV. She placed both hands on the steering wheel, but did not start the engine. My father remained on the porch. Grandpa stepped aside. Coffee? My father looked at my mother through the windshield, then at Grandpa. I should go with her. Grandpa nodded. Of course. There was no anger in his voice, only recognition. My father walked back to the driveway. The vehicles left one after the other. I watched until they turned at the end of Hawthorne Lane. Grandpa stood beside me. Your father has spent 38 years avoiding the moment after no, he said. What does that mean? He lets her ask until everyone is too tired to refuse. We carried the casserole into the kitchen. Grandpa looked beneath the foil. Cream of mushroom soup. I told you. Straight into the freezer. For what? Winter emergencies. I laughed. It was the first time either of us had laughed that day. The home changes were completed within 2 weeks. The washer and dryer were moved into a converted storage room beside the kitchen. The new rails were secured to the stairs. Motion lights were installed in the upstairs hallway. Grandpa regained strength. He began taking short walks each morning, first to the mailbox, then around the block. My mother stayed away for a while. Then she changed strategy. She stopped trying to gain access. She began offering care. Groceries appeared on the porch. A lawn service arrived and said Denise had paid for the summer. A cleaner came every other Friday. My mother mailed Grandpa a medical alert necklace with a note written in blue ink. For your safety. No pressure. Grandpa showed it to Miriam. Miriam told him gifts were not contracts. He wore the necklace anyway. It has a useful button, he said. My mother knew how to make control resemble kindness. That was what made her dangerous. If she had been cruel every day, Grandpa would have shut the door sooner. Instead, she alternated. Pressure, concern, silence, a gift, a wound, an apology too. Had never named the wound. By August, she was visiting again. Only after calling. Only when Grandpa agreed. At first, I thought the boundary was working. Then Grandpa told me she had begun bringing boxes. What boxes? Your father's records. Why? She says their office is being painted. What office? The room beside their garage. Are painters coming? She says so. Did you see paint? No. How many boxes? 7. Where are they? In the upstairs bedroom. The old bedroom. His office. My father's childhood room. The room containing the black ledger. Did you let her put them there? She asked. Why did you say yes? He looked offended. I am allowed to say yes. I know. Do you? I exhaled. I'm sorry. He softened. She said they would be gone in a week. They were not. The next Saturday, I found 12 boxes stacked against the wall. A folding clothing rack stood beside them, covered with my mother's coats. 2 framed photographs from my parents' house leaned against Grandpa's desk.
His survey certificates had been removed from the wall. They were stacked behind the door. I held one of the frames. Who did this? Grandpa stood in the hallway. Your mother. Why? She said the nails were damaging the plaster. They have been there for 20 years. I told her that. Did you tell her to put them back? She said she would. I looked around the room. A small printer had appeared on the desk. Not Grandpa's. My mother's name was written on a label across the back. This isn't storage, I said. What is it? She is moving in. Grandpa shook his head. She has a house. She is making this room hers. She is storing boxes, and coats, and a printer. She removed your things from the wall. He frowned. I could see the moment he understood. Not because he was confused before, because he had wanted the kinder explanation. That evening, he called my mother. I sat in the kitchen while he spoke from the den. I heard only his side. No. A pause. No, I did not agree to an office. Another pause. The boxes need to go. Silence. No. Longer silence. Denise. His voice became firmer. This is not a debate. I counted 17 seconds. Then he said, Tuesday. He hung up. What did she say? I asked. That the work at home has become disruptive. What work? Evan's company. I stared at him. What does Evan's company have to do with Mom's office? She is doing his bookkeeping. Since when? Apparently, since spring. That explained the closed laptop, the reserve account, the payroll withdrawal, maybe the furniture too. My mother had placed herself inside Evan's business. If the company failed, she would call it a family emergency. If Grandpa's money solved it, she would call it support. What happens Tuesday? I asked. She is removing the boxes. She removed 4. The printer stayed. So did the coats. 2 weeks later, a filing cabinet appeared in the hallway. Then Evan began using Grandpa's garage. At first, it was 1 stack of cabinet doors protected by blankets, then a table saw, then 3 sheets of walnut plywood. Then 2 employees arrived at 7:30 on a Saturday morning and began unloading tools. Grandpa called me at 8. There are strangers in my garage. I heard machinery behind him. Did you call Mom? She says it is temporary. Did you call Evan? He said the workshop lease is being renewed. What does that mean? I suspect it means the rent was not paid. I drove there. Evan was standing in the driveway wearing work boots and a branded black shirt. His truck was backed toward the open garage. Inside, 2 men were cutting wood across a portable table. Sawdust coated Grandpa's lawnmower. What are you doing? I asked. Evan looked up. Working. This is Grandpa's garage. He said we could store a few things. Grandpa stood on the porch. I said 2 days. Evan turned. This is the 2nd day. When are you leaving? I asked. When the shop issue is settled. What issue? It is business. Then conduct it at your business. His jaw tightened. Do you have to be involved in everything? I was called. By an 80-year-old man who panics when he sees a toolbox. Grandpa's expression changed. I walked closer to Evan. Do not speak about him like that. He is standing right there. Exactly. Evan took off one glove.
Mom said this was fine. Mom does not own the garage. He is her father. That does not make his property hers. Evan laughed. You really think you're in charge now? No. You show up with your notebook and your bank vocabulary and act like everyone is committing a crime. I didn't mention a crime. You didn't have to. One of the employees turned off the saw. The sudden quiet made every word clearer. Grandpa came down the porch steps. Pack the tools, he said. Evan stared at him. Grandpa? Pack them. We have a deadline. Not here. Where am I supposed to go? To the workshop you told us was successful. Evan's face darkened. I watched the words reach him. Grandpa had not raised his voice. He had only removed the cover. Evan stepped closer. You know how hard I'm working. I know how much you are borrowing. I pay people back. Do you? Ask Mom. I am asking you. Evan looked toward me. This is because of her. Grandpa shook his head. No. This is because I cannot park my car in my own garage. You don't drive every day. That is not your decision. Evan threw the glove into the truck bed. Fine. He called to the employees. Pack it. They worked silently. 26 minutes later, the driveway was empty. Sawdust remained on the garage floor. A thin scratch ran across the side of Grandpa's lawnmower. Evan left without apologizing. Now my mother called before lunch. I was still sweeping the garage. Grandpa answered on speaker because his hands were dusty. You humiliated him, she said. I asked him to leave. In front of his employees. He brought them into my garage. He is trying to keep his company alive. Then perhaps he should pay the rent. She went quiet. Grandpa looked at me. I kept sweeping. My mother's voice returned. Did Claire tell you to say that? No. She is enjoying this. I stopped. Grandpa looked toward the phone. Enjoying what? Watching us struggle? I did not know Evan was struggling. He is not. He has a temporary cash flow problem. How much? That is private. You asked me to cover his payroll. As a loan? How much does he owe me? He is your grandson. That is not a number. You never treated Claire this way. I closed my eyes. The change was so quick it almost worked. Grandpa remained calm. How did I treat Claire? You helped her whenever she asked. She did not ask. Because she likes making everyone feel guilty. I set the broom against the wall. Mom, I said, I'm speaking to my father. You mentioned me. I said nothing untrue. Grandpa picked up the phone. Denise, remove the rest of your things from the upstairs room by Friday. A sharp silence followed. What? The coats, the printer, the filing cabinet. Why? Because this is my home. I am trying to help your grandson survive. Then use your home. We don't have space. You bought a new dining table large enough for a committee meeting. I covered my mouth. My mother heard the laugh I failed to hide. This is cruel, she said. Grandpa's face became tired. No, cruel is taking someone's room one box at a time and calling it help. He ended the call. Friday came. My mother arrived with my father and Evan. They removed the coats, printer, boxes, and filing cabinet. I was not there. Grandpa told me afterward that no one spoke except my father, who asked where the hand truck was stored. Then my mother took the black ledger. Grandpa noticed it missing the next morning. He called me at 7:11. My book is gone. I sat upright in bed. What book? The ledger. Are you sure? I looked. Could you have moved it? No. Did Mom go near the desk? She packed the printer. Was Evan upstairs? For a few minutes. I was already dressing. Call Miriam. I called you. Call her too. I reached the house in 41 minutes. The ledger was not in the desk. It was not beneath the files, inside the cash box, behind the bookcase, or mixed with my mother's remaining papers. The question-marked charges were gone with it. So were several years of handwritten records. Grandpa stood in the center of the room. His hands shook.
It was the first time I had seen that. Maybe she took it accidentally, he said. No. It could have been packed with her files. Her files were in boxes across the room. People make mistakes. Yes, I said. This was not one. He looked at the empty place on the desk. I called my mother. She answered after 2 rings. What? Do you have Grandpa's ledger? What ledger? The black book from his desk. I don't know what you're talking about. He records his account activity in it. I have never seen it. Evan? What about him? Did he take anything from the desk? Why would he? I'm asking. You are accusing. Did he take it? I don't know. Ask him. He is working. At which workshop? She inhaled sharply. You have no idea what pressure this family is under. Where is the ledger? I told you, I don't know. Grandpa held out his hand for the phone. I gave it to him. Denise? His voice was steady again. Bring the book back. She began speaking quickly. He interrupted. No. Another burst of words. No. Then he said, You should be grateful I am asking only once. The line stopped her. I watched his face. He had taken her words and returned them without changing his tone. I want the book on my porch by noon, he said. Then he hung up. At 11:38, my father's truck pulled into the driveway. He stepped out alone. The black ledger was beneath his arm. Grandpa opened the front door. My father walked up the path. For a few seconds, they stood facing each other. Then my father held out the book. It was in one of the boxes. No, Grandpa said. My father's hand remained extended. Denise found it. Where? In a box. Which box? I don't know. Was it open? My father looked at the cover. No. Grandpa took the ledger and opened it. Several pages had been torn out. The section containing the questionable charges was gone. The page edges were uneven, fresh. Grandpa ran one finger across them. My father saw. His face changed. I didn't know. Grandpa looked up. Didn't know what? That pages were missing. You carried it here. I didn't open it. Why not? My father did not answer. Grandpa held the book against his chest. Who removed them? I don't know. Ask your wife. Dad. Ask her. My father glanced at me. I said nothing. He lowered his voice. She said the book was mixed with her business records. And the pages? I don't know. Grandpa nodded slowly. You use that sentence often. My father looked toward the street. The same escape. Something outside the room. Only this time, we were already outside. There was nowhere else to look. I'm sorry, he said. Grandpa waited. For what? For the confusion. Not the missing pages. Not carrying back altered evidence. The confusion. Grandpa stepped inside. My father placed one hand against the door before it closed. Dad? What? You know Denise loves you. Grandpa looked at his son. That is becoming a very expensive thing to believe. He closed the door. Miriam arrived that afternoon. She was 62, with short silver hair and rectangular glasses. She wore a dark green suit and carried a leather briefcase, worn pale at the corners. It was my first time meeting her. She shook my hand firmly. Claire? Yes. Walter has told me you read everything. Usually twice. Good. We sat around the kitchen table. Grandpa placed the damaged ledger between us. Miriam examined the missing pages. Do you have copies? She asked. No, Grandpa said. She looked at me. I shook my head. He would not let me photograph them. Grandpa looked irritated. I was not expecting someone to remove pages from my desk. No, Miriam said. You were expecting your family to behave like family. She opened her briefcase and removed a thick blue folder. Fortunately, the bank statements are complete. Grandpa leaned back. Miriam turned several pages toward us. She had marked transactions in yellow. Furniture. Cash withdrawals. Payments to a commercial vehicle lender. 2 checks made payable to Bennett Custom Interiors. A transfer of $8,000 to an account ending in 4472. Whose account is that? I asked. Denise and Robert's home equity line, Miriam said. Grandpa stared at the page. What was the payment for? We do not know yet. How much is unaccounted for? I asked. Based on what I have reviewed, $27,640 over 14 months. Grandpa removed his glasses. The kitchen clock ticked. I counted 8 times. Then he said, I gave her access for groceries. Miriam nodded. There are groceries. How much? Approximately $6,200. For one person? Some purchases may have been for your home. Some. Yes. And the rest? Furniture, Evan's company, personal bills, cash, and several payments we have not identified. Grandpa put his glasses back on. What do we do? Miriam folded her hands. That depends on what you want. I want it stopped. It is stopped. I want the records preserved. They are. I want my house protected. It is. I looked at her. How? Grandpa and Miriam exchanged a glance. She opened another section of the blue folder. Walter placed the house and his primary investment assets into the Bennett Family Living Trust 11 years ago. I stared at Grandpa. He looked at the table. The trust owns the house? I asked. Yes, Miriam said. Who is the trustee? Walter is the current trustee. And if he becomes unable to act? Miriam looked directly at me. You and I become co-trustees. The room became very quiet. I heard a truck pass outside. A bird struck the feeder near the window, sending seed against the glass. I looked at Grandpa. You named me? Yes? When? 11 years ago. I was 20. You were careful. My mother's word. Small. Afraid. Watching life instead of owning it. Grandpa had seen something else. Miriam continued. The trust requires both successor co-trustees to approve any sale, mortgage, or transfer of real property after Walter's incapacity or death. While Walter is competent, he may act, but the trust document contains a notice provision requiring me to review any transfer to a direct family member. So the document Mom brought could not have transferred the house, not without creating several obvious legal problems. Does she know about the trust? No, Grandpa said. Does Dad? No. Evan? No. I looked at Miriam. What about the money in the checking account? Most of it was outside the trust, she said. Walter kept a household account for ordinary expenses. How much did Mom think he had? Grandpa gave a tired smile. Whatever she could see. Miriam opened a statement showing the trust assets. I did not focus on the total at first. I saw the categories. The house, 2 rental properties, municipal bonds, a conservative investment account. Then I saw the number, just over $2 million. I looked at Grandpa. You said the main account was modest. It is modest compared to some. You own 2 rental properties? The trust owns them. Where? One on Carver Street, one near the college. I thought those belonged to your old business partner. He manages them. I sat back. My mother believed Grandpa's entire estate was the house and a checking account that once held around $60,000. She had risked everything for the smallest visible part. Grandpa touched the damaged ledger. What happens now? Miriam closed the asset statement. Now we make decisions before Denise makes another one for you. The next week, Grandpa signed a limited financial power of attorney naming Miriam for legal matters and me for routine account monitoring. He did not give me authority to spend freely. He gave me access to review statements, receive alerts, and pay approved household bills if needed. Every transaction required a note. Every receipt was scanned. Every payment above $500 triggered a notice to Miriam. It was exactly the kind of arrangement my mother would have called cold. Grandpa called it clear. He also changed the locks. Not because my mother had entered without permission, because he discovered she had made a copy of his key. A locksmith named Paul replaced the front, back, garage, and side door locks for $475. Grandpa gave 1 key to me, 1 to Miriam. He kept 2. He placed the old keys in a glass jar on his desk. Why keep them? I asked. To remember that something can look useful after it stops opening the door. By autumn, the family had divided into 2 versions of the same story. In my mother's version, had manipulated a lonely old man into distrusting his devoted daughter. In Grandpa's version, he had finally read his own bank statements. Relatives began calling. Aunt Carol asked whether Grandpa was confused.
My father's cousin sent me a message saying elderly people sometimes became suspicious. Evan's wife, Lauren, wrote that the family needed healing, not audits. No one asked for the statements. No one asked about the missing pages. No one asked why my mother had tried to place a covered property document in front of Grandpa. They asked why I could not let things go. Letting go was easy for people who had not lost anything. Grandpa's 80th birthday had passed months earlier, but my mother decided to hold another family dinner in October. She called it a harvest gathering. The invitation came by email. "Family is more important than misunderstandings," she wrote. Grandpa laughed when he read it. "What is a harvest gathering?" "Thanksgiving without accountability." He wanted to go. I did not. "She is planning something," I said.
"She is always planning something. That is not a reason to attend. It is my family. They stole from you. She moved money." "Grandpa." He looked at me. "I want to hear what she says when she thinks the room belongs to her." The dinner was held at my parents' house on October 16th. There were 12 guests, Aunt Carol and her husband, 2 cousins, Evan and Lauren. My parents, Grandpa, me, and 3 people from my mother's church who had apparently become close family friends sometime after the bank review began. The dining table Grandpa had unknowingly purchased was extended with both leaves. My mother seated him at the head. She placed herself at his right hand. I sat halfway down the table beside Lauren. Dinner began with squash soup, followed by roast chicken, potatoes, green beans, and a salad topped with candied walnuts. My mother had handwritten place cards. Grandpa's card said Patriarch. Mine said Claire. Evan's said Visionary. I turned his card face down before he arrived. During the meal, my mother told stories about caring for Grandpa. She mentioned the medical alert necklace, the lawn service, the cleaner. She did not mention that Grandpa paid the cleaner directly after discovering my mother had charged him double the company's rate. She did not mention the reserve account. She did not mention the torn ledger. After dessert, she tapped her glass with a spoon. Conversation stopped. "I want to say something," she began. Grandpa looked at me. There it was. The plan. My mother smiled around the table. "The last year has taught our family how quickly life can change. Dad's fall reminded us that time is precious." Grandpa ate a spoonful of apple pie. She continued. "We have had disagreements about the best way to support him. Some people have chosen suspicion. Others have chosen service." Aunt Carol looked at me. I kept my hands in my lap. My mother placed one hand over Grandpa's. He moved his hand away to reach for his coffee. She pretended not to notice. "But we cannot allow misunderstandings to keep us from making necessary decisions." My father stared at his plate. Evan sat straighter. "We have decided," she said, "that Dad will move into the garden suite after Christmas." Silence. The garden suite was a detached room behind my parents' garage. It had once been a workshop. My parents had added a bathroom and small kitchenette 5 years earlier. They rented it to a college student for $800 a month. Grandpa set down his fork. "Who decided?" My mother smiled. "We discussed it." "With whom?" "Robert and I." "Evan agrees." Evan nodded as if his vote mattered. Grandpa looked around the table. "You held a meeting about where I will live without inviting me. We knew you would resist at first." "At first?" "You are attached to the house." "I live there." "That is what attached means," Aunt Carol's husband muttered. My mother ignored him. "The stairs are unsafe. The yard is too much. The house needs work." "What work?" Grandpa asked. "The roof, plumbing, electrical updates." "The roof is 6 years old. There are still issues." "What issues?" My mother looked toward Evan. He opened a folder beside his chair. I had not noticed it before. Gray. "Of course." He removed several printed pages. "My company did an assessment," he said. "Your cabinet company assessed the electrical system?" I asked. He did not look at me. "We brought in people." "What people?" "Contractors." "Licensed?" My mother raised one hand. "This is exactly what I hope to avoid." Grandpa held out his hand. "Give me the assessment." Evan passed the pages to him. Grandpa read the first sheet, then the second. He stopped. How much? Evan cleared his throat. The full renovation estimate is $84,000. Aunt Carol gasped. My mother leaned toward Grandpa. The good news is that you will not need to worry about it while staying with us. What happens to the house? We renovate it. For whom? Evan answered. Lauren and I could move in temporarily. Lauren turned toward him. We could what? Evan's face changed. He had not told her. My mother continued. It makes sense. They need more space. The house should stay in the family. Grandpa folded the assessment. And where does the renovation money come from? My mother placed her fingertips against the table. Your investments. Which investments? The ones we discussed. We did not discuss them. Dad. Which investments, Denise? Her smile weakened. The accounts Miriam is controlling. Miriam was not controlling any account. That wording mattered. Grandpa leaned back. So I move into your garden room, Evan moves into my house, and my money pays him to renovate it. It would protect the property. From what? Decline. Grandpa looked around the table. No one spoke. Then he asked, Who owns the house? My mother blinked. You do. And who decides where I live? You do, but... Stop there. She inhaled. Grandpa turned to Evan. Did you prepare this estimate? My company did. You want $84,000? For required work. Why does the estimate include a new kitchen island? Evan looked down at the paper. Modernization. A walk-in closet? Resale value. A wine refrigerator? No one moved. Grandpa looked at Lauren. Do you drink wine? She shook her head. No. He looked back at Evan. Neither do you. That is not the point. What is the point? Evan's face reddened. The house is outdated. It is mine. For now, my mother said. The words escaped before she could soften them. The room went silent. My mother realized what she had said. She reached for Grandpa's hand again. I did not mean... He pulled his chair back. The legs scraped against the floor. You meant exactly enough. She stood. Dad. He folded the renovation estimate and placed it beside his plate. You should be grateful, she said, her voice tightening, that we are willing to do this much. The cruel line. Again. Only now there were witnesses. Grandpa looked at her for a long time. Then he smiled. Not warmly. Thank you, he said. My mother relaxed. She thought she had won. He continued. Thank you for putting it in writing. He lifted the estimate. Evan went pale. Grandpa turned to me. Kid, take me home. I stood. My mother walked around the table. You cannot leave like this. I can. Everyone is here. Yes. You are embarrassing me. Grandpa put on his coat. No, he said. I am disappointing your plan. Those are different things. My father rose slowly. Dad, let's talk. We just did. This became emotional. For whom? My father looked at my mother. Grandpa nodded. That is what I thought. We left through the front door. Aunt Carol followed us onto the porch. Walter, she said. He turned. She hugged him. I didn't know. He patted her shoulder. You know now. In the car, Grandpa placed the gray estimate folder on his lap. Neither of us spoke for the first 10 minutes. Then he said, $84,000. Yes. For a wine refrigerator? You don't even drink. I might start? I laughed once. He did not. At the next traffic light, he said, They are not going to stop. No. I thought boundaries would be enough. So did I. He looked down at the folder. Tomorrow, we call Miriam. The following morning, Miriam reviewed the renovation estimate. She found 3 problems immediately. The contractor names were not listed. The company license number belonged to a plumbing firm in another county, and the signature approving the assessment appeared to be Grandpa's. He had never seen the document before. "It's a dinner. This is not his signature," I said. Miriam looked at Grandpa. "Do you agree?" "Yes." She placed the page inside a clear protective sleeve. "Then we preserve it." Grandpa stared at the false signature. "What would this have done?" "By itself, probably nothing," Miriam said. "But combined with a power of attorney or property transfer, it could have been used to support the claim that you approved renovations." "Or that I owed Evans' company money," Grandpa said. "Yes." He sat back. For the first time, I saw anger in his face. Not loud anger, the kind that clears confusion. "I want a full accounting," he said. "You have one in progress," Miriam replied. "No, I want everything. Every check, every transfer, every form, every payment connected to Denise or Evan." Miriam nodded. "And after that?" Grandpa looked at the false signature again. "After that, they will learn who I trusted with the important things." Miriam began with the bank. She sent formal requests for statements, check images, transfer records, account opening documents, and every authorization connected to Grandpa's name. Then she requested records from Evan's business. Not from Evan, from the companies that had been paid. The vehicle lender, the workshop landlord, the lumber supplier, the payroll service. Records did not become offended when questioned. They did not cry. They did not tell you that family should trust family. They produced dates, amounts, account numbers, signatures. That was how the next layer opened. The $8,000 transfer to my parents' home equity line had covered a missed payment and late fees. The cash withdrawn for Evan's payroll had not been repaid. 2 checks written to Bennett Custom Interiors had been deposited 3 days before the company's rent was due. The furniture purchase had included not only the dining table but 6 chairs, a sideboard, and delivery to my parents' address. The total was $1,483. Grandpa had not seen the final receipt. My mother had shown him a handwritten note that said household safety equipment. There was more. A payment of $2,200 to a travel company. My mother had described it as a medical transport deposit. It paid for a 5-night trip she and my father had taken to Charleston. A $1,200 check marked roof repair had been deposited into Evan's personal account. A payment to a storage company had covered 3 months of overdue fees for furniture from his closed showroom. Every explanation sounded almost reasonable until the destination was placed beside it. Groceries went to my mother's house, repairs went to Evan, emergency money went to a vacation. That was her method. She did not hide numbers. She changed their names. Grandpa sat at the kitchen table while I arranged copies of the statements in date order. He wore his reading glasses low on his nose. The old black ledger lay beside him, damaged but still useful. For transactions recorded before the pages disappeared, we compared his notes against the bank. For the missing section, we rebuilt the record from statements and receipts. I printed each document. Grandpa did not trust screens for anything important. "Paper stays where you put it," he said. "Your ledger didn't." He looked at me over his glasses. "Usually." Miriam came every Thursday afternoon. She brought new records in a brown accordion folder. The folder became thick. At first, Grandpa reviewed every page. Then he began asking me to read the descriptions aloud, not because he could not understand them, because hearing the words made the choices harder to soften. June 4th, I read. Check for $1,600 to Bennett Custom Interiors. What did she call it? I checked his old notes. Bathroom safety work. He looked toward the downstairs bathroom. The single handrail my mother bought had cost $69. "Next," he said. June 18th. Cash withdrawal, $800. Her explanation? Property maintenance. Do we have a receipt? No. Next. By the end of each session, his face looked older. Truth did not always bring relief. Sometimes it only removed the final excuse. One Thursday,
Miriam placed a copy of a check in front of him. It was payable to my mother, $5,000. The memo line said, loan. The signature appeared to be Grandpa's. He studied it. I did not write that. Miriam pointed to the date. Where were you on August 22nd? Grandpa looked at me. I knew. That was the day of his follow-up appointment after the fall. What time? Miriam asked. 11:30, I said. Where? Belmere Orthopedics. She opened another folder and removed a copy of the appointment record. Grandpa had checked in at 10:58. The check had been cashed at a bank branch across town at 11:12. Miriam folded her hands. Could Denise have possessed a signed blank check? Grandpa thought. I signed 3 for household bills when my shoulder was injured. Did you fill in the payees? No. Who held them? Denise. I looked at him. You let her back in after the fall? To pay 2 bills. You had already removed her access. I could not write comfortably. You could have called me. His face tightened. I know. The frustration in my voice had hurt him. I heard it after the words left. I'm sorry. He shook his head. No, you are right. That doesn't mean I should speak to you like that. He closed the folder. I wanted to believe a boundary had changed her. Miriam spoke gently. Boundaries do not change people. They show people what happens when they refuse to change themselves. Grandpa looked at the check again. What happens with this? We preserve it, she said.
That is what you say about everything. Because preservation gives you options. What options? A civil demand for repayment, a bank investigation, potential criminal reporting if you choose, changes to your estate plan, restrictions on future access. Grandpa's face became hard at the mention of criminal reporting. No police. Walter. No. Miriam did not argue. Then we begin with a written demand and an accounting. What will the letter say? That funds were taken without authorization and must be explained or repaid. She will say they were gifts. Then she can show evidence. Grandpa looked at me. She will blame you. I know. She will say you turned me against her. I know. She may tell everyone. She already has. He rubbed one hand across the ledger cover. I spent years teaching you not to care what people say. You taught me to care whether it was true. He smiled. Barely. That too. Miriam sent the demand letter on a Monday. It arrived at my parents' house on Wednesday. My mother called me at 9:14 that evening.
I let it ring 7 times, then voicemail. She called again. 9 rings. Another voicemail. The 3rd call came from my father's number. I answered. Claire, my mother's voice. She had used his phone. What do you want? How dare you? I sat at my kitchen table with the phone on speaker. Is Dad there? This has nothing to do with your father. Then why are you calling from his phone? You blocked me. I didn't. You did not answer. That is different. She breathed hard through her nose. I could hear a door close in the background. What did you make him sign? Who? Do not play games. I haven't made anyone sign anything. The letter. Miriam sent the letter. At your instruction. At Grandpa's. He does not understand what it says. He reviewed it before she sent it. You are lying. No. He would never accuse me of stealing. The word came from her. Not me. Did the letter use that word? Silence. I continued. What exactly did it say? You know what it said. I know what Miriam planned to say. I'm asking what upset you. All of it. The request for receipts? I don't owe you receipts. You owe Grandpa an explanation. I cared for him for years. Then it should be easy to show which expenses were his. You have no idea what care costs. Did care include your Charleston trip? She went silent. I looked at the clock. 10 seconds. Then she said, Your father needed a break. Grandpa paid for it. He offered. When? You were not there. Was there a note? People do not write contracts for gifts. Grandpa writes down the price of bread. You think you are so clever. No. I think there is a statement showing where the money went. Her voice changed. lower, more controlled. This is your last chance to stop. Stop what? Whatever you think you're building.
I'm not building anything. Do you believe he's going to leave you that house? There it was, not concern, not love, the house. I haven't asked him. You don't have to ask. You sit beside him with your folders and whisper that everyone is using him. I don't whisper. You have always wanted to prove you were better than Evan. This has nothing to do with being better. You resent us because we supported him. You used Grandpa's money to do it. He is family. So am I. The words came out before I could stop them. My mother became quiet. I hated that I had given her something honest. She knew how to use honesty better than most people used lies. Her voice softened. Claire. I closed my eyes. We made mistakes with you. I said nothing. You were so independent. You never seemed to need what Evan needed. That is the excuse? It is not an excuse. It sounds like one. We thought you were strong. You told me there was no money for school. We were struggling. Grandpa gave you $50,000 for me.
The line went dead silent. My father spoke in the background. What? My mother had not told him either. Claire, she said. He kept the transfer record. You do not understand what happened. Then explain it. We used that money for family expenses. How much went to my education? We paid for things. How much? You lived at home for 2 years. Because I couldn't afford housing. We fed you. How much? Do not reduce motherhood to receipts. You reduced Grandpa's care to withdrawals. That is different. How? I am his daughter, and I'm yours. My voice broke. Only once. I hated that too. My mother lowered her voice further. I did what I had to do. For Evan? For the family. Which part? She did not answer. Behind her, my father said her name. Denise. She snapped at him to stay out of it, then she returned to me. You have no children. You have no idea how impossible these choices are. I know you chose. What does that mean? It means you keep describing decisions as emergencies. She inhaled. You will regret this. There it was again, the warning that was never called a threat. What will I regret? When your grandfather dies and you realize you spent his last years filling them with conflict. I looked at the lockbox beneath the side table. The brass key rested inside. No, I said. I think he spent years avoiding conflict, and that is how you got this far. She ended the call. My father called back 11 minutes later. This time, it was him. I didn't know about the college money, he said. I was still at the table. Grandpa has the transfer record. Your mother handled the accounts then. You signed the tax returns. That doesn't mean I saw every deposit. You lived in the same house. Claire, did you ever ask how Evan's tuition was paid? We knew Dad was he.
Ulping. Did you ask about mine? He was quiet. I counted 8 seconds. No, he said. At least it was honest. Too late, but honest. Why not? You never complained. I laughed. Not because it was funny. Would it have mattered? Yes. How? I would have... He stopped. What? I don't know. That was the closest my father had come to telling the truth. I'm sorry, he said. For which part? All of it. That isn't specific enough. I don't know what you want from me. I wanted a father who noticed. He breathed out slowly. I did notice. No, you noticed that I survived. He did not answer. I ended the call. The demand letter required a response within 14 days. My mother waited 13. Her attorney sent a 5-page reply denying wrongdoing. The letter described every transaction as one of 3 things: a gift, reimbursement, or an expense Grandpa had approved but forgotten. The word forgotten appeared 11 times. I counted. The letter also accused me of isolating Grandpa, influencing his decisions, and interfering with his relationship with his children. There were no receipts attached, no repayment records, no signed gift letters, only explanations. Miriam read the response at Grandpa's kitchen table. When she finished, he asked for the first page. He read the paragraph describing his memory. Then he read it again. She says I forgot all of it. That is their position, Miriam said. $27,000. Yes. I forgot $27,000? That is what the letter suggests. Grandpa looked at me. I remember the price of your bread. $9.50. Too much. You still bought it. I reimbursed you. $10. And did I ask for the change? No. He looked at Miriam. My memory is fine. I know. No, he said. Put that in writing. Miriam prepared a sworn statement. Grandpa described the limited permission he had given my mother, the transactions he had not approved, the covered forms, the altered ledger, and the false signature on Evan's renovation estimate. He signed every page. Then he initialed beside each correction. Miriam arranged for a physician to evaluate his decision-making capacity. Not because he needed permission to manage his life, because my mother had placed his mind at the center of her defense. Dr. Lena Ortiz met with him for almost 2 hours. She asked questions about his finances, family, medication, recent events, and the decisions he had made. Grandpa told her the house purchase price, $36,000. He told her the current value, $412,000 according to the most recent assessment. He explained the trust. He explained the checking account. He explained why he had named Miriam and me as successor co-trustees. He even explained the difference between my job and a lawyer's. When Dr. Ortiz asked whether anyone was pressuring him, he said, "Yes, she waited. My daughter pressures me to give her control," he said. "My granddaughter pressures me to read what I sign." Dr. Ortiz smiled. "Are those pressures the same?" "No." "How are they different?" "One asks for my answer. The other brings the answer with her." Her written report stated that Grandpa understood his assets, relationships, risks, and choices. He had full decision-making capacity. Miriam sent the report to my mother's attorney. 3 days later, my mother drove to Grandpa's house. She stayed in the car and called him from the driveway. I was not there. He told me what happened later. He looked through the front window and saw her holding the phone to her ear. He answered. "Dad," she said, "what do you need?" "To talk." "We are talking. Face to face." "No." "I'm sitting outside your house." "I know." "You knew I was here?" "I have windows." She began to cry. Not the quiet performance she used in public. These tears sounded angry. "How can you do this to me?" "What am I doing?" "You sent a doctor to prove I'm lying." "The doctor came to prove I can make decisions." "I never said you couldn't." "Your attorney said I forgot giving you money." "That is not the same thing." "It is exactly the same thing. I was helping you. With my money." "Why are you speaking like a stranger?" "Because my daughter is in the driveway demanding entrance after I asked her not to come." She stayed silent. Then she said, "Open the door." "No. Please. No. I am your daughter. Yes. I love you." Grandpa looked at her through the window. He told me later that those 3 words almost opened the door. Not because he believed they erased anything, because he wanted to believe they were the beginning of something honest. Then she said, "We can fix the estate plan before Claire destroys it." The door stayed closed. "What do you think she is destroying?" he asked. "Our family?" "No." "Then what?" "Your expectation." "What expectation?" "That love gives you ownership." My mother lowered the phone. For a moment, they looked at each other through the glass. Then she lifted it again. "You will die alone in that house." Grandpa closed his eyes. She drove away.
He did not tell me about that sentence until weeks later. By then, the next change had begun. His appetite faded. At first, he blamed the summer heat. Then he lost 9 pounds. A blood test showed anemia. More tests followed. There was a scan, then a biopsy. I sat beside him in the specialist's office when the doctor said the word cancer. Pancreatic, advanced. The doctor continued speaking. Treatment options. Comfort, time. Grandpa watched the doctor's hands. I watched Grandpa. He asked practical questions. How long? Months, most likely. Would treatment cure it? No. Could treatment slow it? Possibly. At what cost? Fatigue, nausea, hospital visits, uncertainty. He listened. Then he asked for a week to decide. In the parking lot, he stood beside my car with both hands resting on his cane. The cane was new. He hated it. It is strange, he said. What is? I spent all year protecting the future. I could not speak. He looked toward the hospital entrance. And now I may not have much of one. I touched his arm. He shook his head. Don't. What? Do not look at me like I am already gone. I'm not. Yes, you are. I turned away and stared at the rows of parked cars. I counted them. Red car, white truck, blue van, 2 silver sedans. I reached 7 before my eyes blurred. Grandpa waited. Then he said, I am still here, kid. I nodded. Okay. Say it. You're still here. Good. He chose comfort-focused care. No aggressive treatment. My mother found out from my father. I had called him because Grandpa said he should know. My father told her before asking whether Grandpa wanted her informed. She arrived at Hawthorne Lane that evening. This time, she did not wait in the car. She used the old key. It no longer worked. I heard it scrape inside the lock while Grandpa rested in the den. She tried 3 times. Then she rang the bell. When I opened the door, she was crying. Real tears. Her face was bare. No makeup. Her hair had come loose near her temples. Is it true? Yes. She pressed one hand against her mouth. For a moment, she was only a daughter. Not the architect of anything. Not a strategist. A frightened woman whose father was dying. I almost stepped aside. Then she pushed against the door. I need to see him. I held it. Wait. Get out of my way. He decides. He is my father. I know. You have no right. I'm going to ask him. You are keeping me outside while he has cancer? I'm asking him. Her grief changed shape. It became rage. You wanted this. The sentence stunned me. What? You wanted him to choose you. No. You have been waiting your whole life to replace me. I looked at her. There was no answer that would reach her. Not then. Maybe not ever. I closed the door and went to the den. Grandpa sat in his chair with a blanket over his legs. He had heard everything. Do you want to see her? I asked. He looked toward the hallway. How does she look? Like she's scared. He nodded. Let her in. I returned to the front door. My mother stood with both arms wrapped around herself. You can come in, I said. He wants 10 minutes. She walked past me without speaking. I stayed in the kitchen. I could hear only pieces of their conversation. My mother crying, Grandpa telling her to sit, her saying, Why didn't you tell me? His answer, because I was still deciding how much of my life belonged to me. Then quiet. 7 minutes passed. 9. At 12 my mother entered. The kitchen. Her face was wet. He needs real care, she said. He has a palliative care team. He needs family. He has family. She looked at me. You know what I mean. Yes. She opened her handbag and removed a tissue. He said he won't change the trust. I stared at her. She had managed to ask. During the first conversation after learning he was dying, she had asked about the trust. What exactly did you say to him? That we should put everything behind us. by changing the estate plan, by correcting what you influenced. My anger rose so quickly it frightened me. I kept my voice low. He has cancer, and you asked him about inheritance. I asked him to protect his children. He is protecting himself. He will be dead. The words entered the kitchen and stayed there. My mother seemed to hear them only after she had spoken. She pressed the tissue against her lips. I counted 4 seconds. Then I walked to the front door and opened it. Leave. Claire. Leave. I did not mean it like that. How did you mean it? She looked toward the den. Grandpa's voice came from the hallway. She meant it clearly. He stood with one hand against the wall. My mother turned. Dad, you should go. I am sorry. For which part? She began crying again. I am losing you. No, he said. You lost the version of me who would rather be used than called unloving. She shook her head. That is not fair. Fairness is not what you asked for. You asked for access. She picked up her handbag. At the door, she looked at me. You will regret every second of this. Grandpa answered before I could. No, he said. She will remember it. My mother left. Grandpa sat at the kitchen table. I poured water into a glass and placed it in front of him. His hand trembled when he lifted it. After one sip, he said, I should not have let her in. You wanted to see her. I wanted my daughter. I know. She brought the estate with her. I sat beside him. For a while, we said nothing. Then he reached into his shirt pocket and removed the small brown envelope containing the brass key. I had brought it from my lockbox when he began meeting Miriam more often. He placed it on the table. It is time. The next morning, I drove him to Hale and Turner. Miriam's office occupied the second floor of an old building beside the county courthouse. The elevator moved slowly and smelled like metal and dust. Grandpa counted the floors as the numbers lit. 1, 2. Miriam met us in the lobby. She carried the brown document box into the conference room. It was smaller than I expected. Dark metal, 2 locks. She used one key. I used the brass key for the other. The lock turned with a soft click. Inside were 11 years of records. The original trust, property deeds, investment statements. A transfer showing $50,000 intended for my education. Letters Grandpa had written but never sent. A copy of the first will he made after my grandmother died. Then another will. And another. Each change had a date. Each date connected to something my mother believed had been forgotten. The year she spent the education money. The year Evan's first business failed. The year Grandpa discovered that my mother had added herself as the contact person on one of his rental accounts. At the bottom of the box lay a sealed white envelope. My name was written across it. I looked at Grandpa. What is this? For later. I don't want later. His face softened. I know. Miriam opened the trust document. Grandpa had already made most of the final decisions. The house would not pass directly to any family member. Neither would the rental properties. After his death, the trust would create a fund supporting older adults who had been displaced or financially exploited by relatives. The house would eventually become a small, supported living residence if zoning approval could be obtained. The rentals would help pay for it. My mother and father were left personal items and a modest conditional distribution. Evan's distribution was smaller and dependent on repayment of documented loans. I was named successor trustee with Miriam as co-trustee for the first 3 years. I received Grandpa's personal investment account outside the charitable portion. The amount made me dizzy. Not because I had expected nothing. Because I had expected him to use everything for the residents. Why? I asked. Grandpa looked at the papers. Because you paid $38,000 for an education I already funded. That does not mean you owe me an inheritance. No. Then why? Because I want to. That's not enough. It is the best reason. I shook my head. I don't want Mom to think. She will think whatever protects her from the truth. I'm already the villain. No, he said. You are the witness. Miriam turned toward me. The trust also requires a complete accounting of prior advances before distributions are made. What does that mean? Any amount taken without authorization or documented as a loan is deducted from the recipient's share. So Mom and Evan have to repay it? They must account for it. If they refuse, the trust may treat it as an advance and reduce or eliminate their distributions. Grandpa looked at the sealed envelope. And the letter? Miriam nodded. Still sealed. What letter? I asked. Grandpa touched the envelope. The one they will hear at the reading. I wanted to open it. I did not. He had kept control of so little during the last year. The letter was his. If you believe the truth matters most when someone is no longer in the room to defend it, comment the word envelope. Stay with me, because the paper inside that box did not punish anyone. It simply refused to forget. Grandpa's conde. Idion changed quickly after that. By November, he needed help getting out of bed. A hospital bed was placed in the downstairs den. The leather chair moved near the window. The room became a quiet combination of home and care. Medication bottles stood beside framed photographs. A nurse came every morning. I worked remotely from the dining table. My supervisor approved extended leave without making me explain more than once. My father visited alone. The first time, he brought coffee and sat beside Grandpa for 40 minutes. They talked about baseball, nothing else. The second time, he brought an old photograph of them fishing at Lake Warren. Grandpa studied it. You were 12, he said. 13. No, you turned 13 after that trip. My father smiled. You remember. Grandpa looked at him. Yes. The word carried weight. My father heard it. He placed the photograph on the table. Dad, I should have stopped her. Grandpa turned toward the window. Which time? My father lowered his head. I don't know. That is the problem. I kept thinking it would settle down. Things do not settle while someone is moving them. My father rubbed his hands together. I was afraid of losing my marriage. Grandpa looked at him. So you offered everyone else. My father began to cry. Quietly. I had never seen him cry before. Not at his mother's funeral, not when he lost his job, not when I left for college. He wiped his face with the heel of his hand. I'm sorry. Grandpa watched him. For what? My father took a breath. For letting her take your money. Another breath. For helping her bring the papers. He looked toward me. For not asking about Claire's college fund. My throat tightened. He turned back to Grandpa. For the motel. The word entered the room before the event had happened. I did not understand. What motel? I asked. My father closed his eyes. Grandpa looked at him. You told her? No. Told me what? Neither answered. I stood. What motel? My father rose. I should go. I stepped between him and the door. No. Claire. What did you mean? He looked at Grandpa. Grandpa's face had become unreadable. My father spoke slowly. Your mother has been looking at care facilities. That is not a motel. No. Then what happened? Nothing yet. Yet? He rubbed his forehead. She said if your grandfather refused the facility, we would need another way to make him understand he couldn't stay here. My stomach turned. What way? She talked about taking him somewhere for a few nights. Where? A motel near the highway. Grandpa closed his eyes. My father continued. She said he would realize how difficult living alone had become. You were going to frighten him into leaving his house? No. That is exactly what you described. I told her it was wrong. Did you? Yes. Then, why did you say you were sorry for the motel? He looked down. Because I knew she had reserved a room. When? Last week. Did she cancel it? I don't know. I stared at him. You came here knowing she was planning this? I thought it was only talk. That is what you always think. My voice rose. Grandpa said my name. I turned. He looked tired. Sit. I sat. My father remained near the door. Grandpa looked at him. Give me the motel name. Dad. The name. Pine Rest Lodge. Where? Route 9. Grandpa nodded. Go home, Robert. My father looked at me, then at him. I am sorry. Grandpa's voice was calm. You should be grateful I'm willing to hear that much. My father flinched. Then he left. We called Miriam. She contacted the motel. A reservation had been made in Grandpa's name for the following Monday. 2 nights. My mother's credit card guaranteed it. The room was on the ground floor. No accessible shower. No medical arrangements. No transportation home. Nothing had happened yet. But the plan existed. The record existed. Grandpa asked Miriam to request a copy. She did. My mother still did not know that my father had told us. For 3 weeks, nothing happened. Then Grandpa improved slightly. Not enough to recover, enough to become restless. He began walking through the downstairs rooms with his cane. He ate toast. He complained about the nurse arriving too early. He asked to sit on the porch when the weather was clear. The improvement made my mother's plan possible. She called him on a Sunday evening. I was at my apartment gathering clothes. She said she wanted to take him to lunch the next day. He asked where. She named a restaurant near the county park. He said yes. When he told me, I said no. You are not going. I already agreed. She reserved a motel room for you. His face remained calm. I know. Then why would you get into her car? Because the reservation is gone. That doesn't mean the plan is. She will not do it now. How do you know? She knows I'm sick. She asked you to change the trust after learning you were sick. He looked toward the window. I want lunch with my daughter. There it was again. Not my mother. His daughter. The person he kept hoping would arrive. I'll drive you, I said. No. I'll sit at another table. No. I don't trust her. I know. I don't trust Dad either. I know. Then why? He gripped the cane handle. Because I need to know whether there is anything left between us that is not a document. I had no answer to that. He went. My father drove. My mother sat in the front passenger seat. Grandpa sat in the back. He called me when they arrived at the restaurant. He called again when lunch ended. I'm fine, he said. What now? They want to drive through the park. How long? Half an hour? Call me after. I will. He did. Not. 40 minutes passed. Then 50. I called. No answer. I called again. Voicemail. I called my father. No answer. My mother. Voicemail. At 70 minutes, I got into my car. I drove toward Belmere. At 86 minutes, my phone rang. Grandpa. I answered through the car speakers. Where are you? His voice sounded strange. Small. Pine Rest Lodge. My hands locked around the wheel. What? They left. What do you mean they left? They paid for 2 nights. Are you inside? I'm near the entrance. Why aren't you in the room? The room key does not work. I changed lanes too quickly. A horn sounded behind me. Do you have your medicine? Some. How much? 2 days. Do you have your cane? Yes. Are you alone? There is a clerk inside. I'm coming. Claire. What? Do not call them. Why? Because I want to hear what they say when they do not know I have been found. The motel sat behind a gas station off Route 9. The sign had 3 missing letters. Pine Rest Lodge.
One light flickered above the entrance. I saw Grandpa before I parked. He sat on a metal bench beside the office door. One suitcase stood near his feet. His coat was folded across his knees. A white pharmacy bag rested on top of it. He looked smaller than he had that morning. I stopped the car across 2 spaces and ran to him. Are you hurt? No. Did they touch you? No. What happened? He looked toward the highway. They said we were stopping for coffee. At a motel? The restaurant sign next door says coffee. There was a closed diner beside the parking lot. They brought you here on purpose. Yes. What did they say? He pressed his lips together. My mother's words came back through his voice. You should be grateful we did this much. I knelt in front of him. What exactly happened? My father drove, he said, using the word father the way people do when they are tired enough to mix relationships. Then he corrected himself. Robert drove. He swallowed. Your mother brought the suitcase from the trunk. She said the room was paid for. She said the experience would help me understand that I needed permanent care. And Dad? He carried the pharmacy bag. Did he say anything? He said it was only for 2 nights. I stood. Anger moved through me so hard that my hands went numb. Grandpa looked up. Count? What? You are losing control. I stared at him. Count something. I looked at the motel windows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 doors along the ground floor, 7 on the second. A vending machine near the stairs. 2 cars, 1 broken light. I reached 10 before I could breathe normally. Then I picked up his suitcase. We're going home. No. I stopped. What? Not my house. Why? They have keys? The new locks? They may have changed them again. How? Your father had access to the spare key at Miriam's office last week. Why? He brought documents. I understood. My father had borrowed the office key ring, or photographed the key, or taken it long enough to copy. It did not matter. Grandpa was afraid to return. That was enough. You're coming to my apartment, I said. He nodded. The motel clerk gave me a copy of the registration. My mother had signed Grandpa's name on the guest form, not her own, his. The room charge was $118 per night, 2 nights, cash deposit. $43 had been placed in an envelope marked spending money. Grandpa's wallet contained exactly that amount. The clerk also confirmed that my parents had refused to provide a contact number. They said he didn't want calls, she told me. Did he say that? No. Did he speak at all? He asked where they were going. She looked ashamed. I should have stopped them. You didn't know. I knew something felt wrong. She printed the registration record and wrote a short statement describing what she had seen. Her name was April Moreno. She signed and dated it. A stranger had paid attention. Sometimes that was all it took to become important. At my apartment, I helped Grandpa into my bed. I took the sofa. He was exhausted, but awake. At 11:43, my mother called. I answered. Where is he? She asked. At my apartment. Her breath stopped. How did you know? He called me. He was supposed to stay there. He was sitting outside because the key didn't work. That is not my fault. You left an 81-year-old man with advanced cancer outside a roadside motel. The room was paid. He had 2 days of medicine. He refuses proper care. So you abandoned him? I did not abandon him. You drove away. He needed to understand. Understand what? That he cannot control everyone by refusing help. I looked toward the bedroom. The door was closed. Grandpa could not hear. At least say the truth once, I said. What truth? You wanted to scare him into surrendering the house. That is insane. You had a care facility ready? Silence. You had medical transport? Silence. You had a doctor expecting him? Nothing. You had no plan except making him afraid. He always calls you. Yes. You made sure of that. No, you did. Her voice sharpened. This family was fine before you started investigating us. No. Grandpa simply did not know the total. Bring him home. To his house? To us. He doesn't live with you. He will now. No. You do not decide. He does. He is not capable. The physician's report says otherwise. Your doctor. An independent doctor. He has cancer. That does not transfer ownership of his life to you. My mother became quiet. Then she asked, Did he tell you what he signed? When? Today. My blood went cold. What did you put in front of him? He signed a care agreement. Where is it? With me. Send a copy. No. Then it isn't real. It is legally binding. You are not qualified to decide that. She heard her own sentence returned. I am calling our attorney. Good. I ended the call. Grandpa was standing in the bedroom doorway. He had heard enough. What did I sign? He asked. My stomach turned. When? At lunch. What was it? She said it was the restaurant receipt. How many pages? 1. Did you see the top? No. He closed his eyes. I signed. I took his hand. We'll deal with it. I should have known. You wanted lunch with your daughter. That is no longer an excuse. It is not an excuse. It is the reason. He sat on the edge of the sofa. I called Miriam. She answered on the second ring. By 1:15 in the morning, she had filed an emergency notice with the county property office and sent written revocations of any documents signed that day to my mother's attorney, the bank, and the trust's title company. The care agreement arrived by email the next afternoon. It was not a care agreement. It was an authorization naming my mother as Grandpa's primary residential decision-maker and granting her broad permission to coordinate a sale of the house to fund care. The document did not transfer the property. It could not override the trust. But it could have been used to create confusion. It could have supported a claim that Grandpa wanted her in control. His signature appeared at the bottom. Above it, in small print, was a statement saying he had read and understood the entire page. He had believed he was signing a restaurant receipt. My father's signature appeared as witness. When I showed Grandpa, he read the page twice. Then he asked for the sealed envelope from the document box. Miriam brought it that evening. He opened it. Not me, not her. He read the letter silently. Then he added 1 page. He wrote slowly, stopping several times to rest his hand. When he finished, he placed both pages back inside. He sealed the envelope again. Across the front, he wrote, "To be read aloud." He handed it to Miriam. "Every word," he said. She nodded. Every word. Grandpa stayed at my apartment for 6 days. Miriam arranged for the locks at Hawthorne Lane to be changed again. The new locksmith checked every door and window. A motion camera was installed at the entrance. My parents were formally notified that they could not enter without written permission. The motel registration, clerk's statement, false care document, and witness signature were added to the accounting file. My father sent 3 messages. I'm sorry. I didn't know she would leave him outside. I thought we were taking him to the room. The 3rd message came an hour later. I know that doesn't make it better. I replied once. You signed as witness. He did not answer. Grandpa returned. At home the following Monday. He sat in the passenger seat while I drove. As we turned onto Hawthorne Lane, he looked at the maple tree. Most of its leaves had fallen. The lawn was covered in red and brown. My father planted that, he said. Your father? Yes. The year Robert was born. I had not known. Grandpa watched the tree until I parked. Inside, everything appeared untouched. Then we reached the den. The framed photograph of my grandmother was gone from the side table. In its place was a brochure for a care facility. My mother had entered the house. She had left the brochure where Grandpa would see it. I checked the camera system. It had not been active before that morning. The locksmith found scratches around the back door lock. Someone had forced it. Nothing valuable was missing. Only the photograph. Grandpa stood beside the empty frame mark on the table. For the first time, he did not ask whether it might have been a mistake. He called Miriam. File everything, he said. She understood. A formal civil claim was prepared. Not to punish, to preserve, to recover the missing money, invalidate the deceptive document, confirm the trust's ownership of the house, and prevent further entry. Grandpa signed it at the dining table. His hand shook. The signature remained his. Then he looked at me. I am tired. I know. No, he said. I am finished. He did not mean with living. Not yet.
He meant with hoping that the same door would open into a different room. Grandpa's last weeks were quieter than the months before them, not peaceful. Quiet. There was a difference. Peace meant nothing remained unfinished. Quiet only meant the unfinished things had stopped shouting for a while. The civil claim moved forward through Miriam's office. My mother's attorney denied that she had taken anything improperly. He described the motel as a temporary accommodation and the false care document as a misunderstanding caused by concern. April Moreno's statement made that explanation harder. So did the motel registration bearing Grandpa's name in my mother's handwriting. So did my father's signature on the document Grandpa had believed was a lunch receipt. So did the security photograph from the motel parking lot, showing my mother's SUV leaving while Grandpa sat beside the entrance with his suitcase. The camera had recorded the time, 3:17 p.m. He called me at 4:43, 86 minutes. I knew because I had counted them. Miriam requested that my parents preserve all messages related to Grandpa's care, property, and finances. My father complied. My mother said several messages had been deleted accidentally when she replaced her phone. The phone company still had usage records. Evan claimed he had no relevant messages. His wife, Lauren, produced 37. She did not do it to help me. She did it because she had discovered the renovation estimate at the same time the rest of us had. She had never agreed to move into Grandpa's house. She had never approved an $84,000 project. Evan had used her name in conversations with my mother to make the plan sound settled. Lauren sent Miriam screenshots. One message from Evan read, "Once Grandpa is out, we can start the kitchen before anyone changes their mind." My mother replied, "Claire will make trouble. We need everything signed first." Another message said, "He trusts me when I make it sound like care." Grandpa read that one twice. Then he handed the page back to Miriam. "No more," he said. We did not show him the remaining messages. There were limits to what truth improved. My mother asked to visit 3 times. Grandpa refused the first 2. On the third, he said yes. There were conditions. Miriam would be present. I would stay in the room. No papers. No discussion of money, the house, the trust, or the claim. My mother arrived wearing a dark blue coat and carrying nothing. I checked her handbag anyway. She watched me open it. "You enjoy this," she said. "No. You don't have to pretend." I wish there were nothing to check. Her mouth tightened, but she let me continue. No documents. No pens except one loose ballpoint. No recorder that I could see. She entered the den. Grandpa sat in his leather chair beneath a gray blanket. The photograph of my grandmother had been returned. Miriam found it in a box my father left outside the law office. My mother stopped when she saw Grandpa. He had lost more weight. His face had narrowed, his wedding ring no longer fit, so he wore it on a cord around his neck. For once, my mother had no prepared expression. She crossed the room and knelt beside him. "Dad." He looked at her. "Denise." She touched the edge of his blanket. "I'm sorry." The room remained still. Miriam sat near the window with a closed folder on her lap. I stood beside the doorway. Grandpa asked, "For what?" My mother's shoulders moved with one sharp breath. "For everything." He waited. It was the same problem my father had faced. Everything sounded large until someone asked it to name itself. My mother tried again. "For the money." Grandpa nodded once. "For pushing you." Another nod. "For making decisions without you." He looked toward the photograph of my grandmother. My mother continued. "For the motel." Her voice broke. This time, no one rescued her from the sentence. Grandpa looked back at her. "Why did you leave me there?" She lowered her head. "I thought you would call Claire." "You knew I would call her." "Yes." "Then what was the lesson?" She wiped her face. "That you couldn't stay alone. No. I was scared. No. I didn't know what else to do. No, Denise. His voice was weak, but the word carried. You knew exactly what you wanted me to do. You wanted me frightened enough to sign away the choice. She began crying harder. I thought the house
would solve everything. There it was. Not love, not care. The house. Grandpa did not look surprised. What was everything? He asked. Evan's business? Our debt? The repairs? Your care? All of it. My house was your answer. I thought it would stay in the family. It was already in the family. She shook her head. You know what I mean. Yes, he said. I finally do. My mother reached for his hand. He allowed her to hold 2 fingers. I loved you, she said. Grandpa's eyes closed. Past tense? I love you. Then why was love always followed by a form? She had no answer. They sat that way for almost a minute. I counted 52 seconds before Grandpa spoke. I forgive you for being afraid. My mother looked up. Hope entered her face too quickly. Then he continued. I do not excuse what you did with the fear. Her hope disappeared. He looked at Miriam. The claim stays. My mother released his hand. Dad, the trust stays. She stood. I came to apologize. And I listened. You said you forgave me. I did. Then why are you still punishing me? Grandpa's expression became tired. Consequences are not punishment because they continue after an apology. She stared at him. I am your daughter. Yes. You are dying. Yes. And this is what you want your final act to be? Grandpa looked down at the blanket. No. He lifted his eyes. My final act was trusting Claire. My mother turned toward me. Every old wound was in her face. You were never the one he trusted with important things, she said. Even there. Even then. She reached for the line that had always worked. Grandpa answered before I could. Denise. She looked at him. You have repeated that sentence so often you began believing it was yours to decide. The room went silent. He pointed weakly toward the door. You should go. My mother stood still. Miriam rose. The visit is over. My mother looked at Grandpa one last time. He did not look away. She left without saying goodbye. I followed her to the front door. On the porch, she turned. You think you won? No. You got everything. He is dying. For a second she looked ashamed. Then anger covered it. He was my father before he was your grandfather. And he was a person before he was either. She walked to her car. That was the last time she saw him alive. 3 nights later, Grandpa woke me at 2:17 in the morning. I had fallen asleep in the chair beside the hospital bed. He said my name once. Claire. I sat up. I'm here. The room was dark except for a small lamp near the window. Rain touched the glass. Not hard, just enough to be heard. He asked for water. I held the straw to his mouth. He took 2 sips. Then he turned his face away. Open the drawer, he said. The side table had 1 drawer. Inside were his watch, wallet, wedding ring cord, and a folded sheet of paper. I picked up the paper. What is this? Read it later. No more sealed things. A faint smile moved across his face. Not sealed. I unfolded it. There were only 4 lines. The first was a reminder to give my father the watch if I believed he had finally told the truth. The second said the brass key belonged to me. The third said not to let the house become a monument to anger. The fourth said, being chosen is not the same as being loved more. It means being trusted to do the harder thing. I read it twice. You could have told me. I just did. His breathing became uneven. I pressed the call button for the nurse.
He touched my wrist. Not yet. I need to call someone. Soon. His fingers were cold. I covered them with mine. Are you afraid? I asked. Yes. The honesty hurt. What are you afraid of? Leaving before I see what happens. You already decided what happens. That is paper. You taught me paper matters. He breathed in slowly. People matter after paper. I leaned closer. I'll do it. What? The residence, the trust, the accounting, all of it. Not all. What should I leave? Leave room for mercy. I began crying, quietly. He looked at me. Count. I don't want to. Count anyway. I listened to the rain. One drop against the window ledge, then another. 3. 4. I counted 10 breaths. On the 11th, his hand relaxed. The nurse arrived at 2:29. Grandpa died at 2:34 on November 28th. There was no dramatic final sentence, no sudden light, no perfect stillness. There was only the sound of rain, the nurse's hand on my shoulder, and a watch ticking inside an open drawer. I counted 17 ticks before I closed it. The first call I made was to Miriam. The second was to my father. He answered with a tired voice. Claire? He's gone. Silence. Then a sound I had never heard from him before. Not crying. Something lower. A person breaking where no one could see. I'm coming, he said. He's still at the house. I'm coming. My mother arrived with him. She stayed in the driveway. My father entered alone. He stood beside Grandpa's bed and placed one hand over his mouth. Then he sat in the leather chair and wept. I did not comfort him. I did not send him away. Mercy sometimes meant allowing another person to feel what you could not fix for them. My mother remained in the car for 39 minutes. She never came inside. The funeral was held 6 days later at Belmere Community Church. Grandpa had chosen the readings himself years earlier. No one gave a long speech. He hated long speeches. Aunt Carol spoke about his survey work and how he could look at an empty field and explain where water would gather after rain. My father spoke for 4 minutes. He told the story of the maple tree. He said Grandpa had planted it the year he was born and spent 42 years trimming it away from the roof. Then my father said, he spent his life protecting structures, and I did not protect him. My mother sat in the front row. Her face did not move. Evan sat beside Lauren, but there was space between their shoulders. I did not speak. I carried the brass key in my coat pocket. After the service, my mother approached me near the church steps. When is the reading? Miriam will notify everyone. You know the date. She will notify everyone. Do I need an attorney? That is your decision. She looked at the people gathered behind me. Then she lowered her voice. Can I enter the house? No. I need his personal things. They will be inventoried. I am his daughter. The trust owns the house. Her eyes sharpened. So it's true. What? You took it. I looked at her. Even after everything, she believed property could only move because someone grabbed it. I didn't take anything. You control the trust. With Miriam, you control her too. Miriam represented Grandpa before I knew the trust existed. My mother moved closer. What did he leave me? I don't know everything. That was true. I had not seen the latest will after the sealed letter was added. You expect me to believe that? I no longer care what you expect. She looked as if I had slapped her. I walked away. The will and trust meeting was scheduled for December 18th at Hale and Turner. Miriam called it an estate information conference rather than a formal will reading. My mother called it the reading because that was the scene she understood. A room, a lawyer, a number spoken aloud. The conference room had 12 chairs around a polished walnut table. A glass wall faced the courthouse across the street. The sky was white with snow. I arrived at 7:45 in the morning. Miriam was already there. She had arranged documents in 5 stacks. The sealed letter sat in the center. My brass key rested beside it. You don't need the key today, I said. No, she replied.
Walter wanted it visible. At 7:52, a bank officer named Marcus Bell arrived. He had overseen the preservation of Grandpa's account records and would explain the financial report if needed. At 7:57, April Moreno entered. She wore a gray sweater and looked nervous. My mother did not know she would be there. At 8 o'clock, my father arrived alone. He looked at the sealed envelope, then at me. Is Denise coming? You tell me. She was behind me. At 8:03, Evan and Lauren entered separately. Lauren sat near the far end of the table. Evan sat beside my father. At 8:07, my mother arrived with her attorney. She wore black, not funeral black, boardroom black. Her gold bracelet touched the table when sighs. He set down her handbag. 3 small sounds. I counted them. At 8:10, Miriam closed the conference room door. My name is Miriam Hale, she began. I represented Walter Bennett in estate and property matters for 19 years. This meeting concerns his will, the Bennett Family Living Trust, the accounting claim, and related personal instructions. My mother looked toward April. Who is she? Miriam answered. Ms. Moreno witnessed an event referenced in the estate documents. What event? We will reach that. My mother's attorney placed one hand near her arm. She leaned back. Miriam began with the will. Grandpa left my father his watch, subject to my discretion, under a separate written instruction. He left my mother my grandmother's recipe box, her pearl earrings, and the blue ceramic bowl that had sat in the kitchen for 40 years. My mother's face changed, not because the items were meaningless, because they were personal rather than valuable. Evan received Grandpa's surveying compass and a set of woodworking tools, provided he collected them within 30 days and signed a receipt. Aunt Carol received family photographs and letters. I received his books, desk, black ledger, brass key, and personal investment account. My mother interrupted. What account? Her attorney touched her arm again. Miriam continued. The remaining estate assets passed according to the trust. She opened the trust summary. The Hawthorne Lane residence, 2 rental properties, municipal bonds, and designated investment assets are owned by the Bennett Family Living Trust. My mother stared at her. What does that mean? It means those assets do not pass through the will. Who gets them? The trust continues. For whom? For the purposes Walter established. Miriam read the provision creating a supported living and emergency assistance fund for older adults displaced or financially exploited by relatives. The Hawthorne Lane house would be evaluated for conversion into a 6-resident supported living home. The rental income would fund operations, maintenance, and grants. My mother's bracelet struck the table once. You're saying he gave the house to strangers? No, Miriam said. He placed it into a charitable trust purpose. He promised that house would stay in the family. Do you have that promise in writing? My mother's lips parted. Nothing came out. Miriam continued. My father and mother had been assigned a combined conditional distribution of $60,000. Evan had been assigned $20,000. The amounts were subject to the accounting provision. My mother laughed. A short, unbelieving sound. 60,000? Her attorney whispered something. She ignored him. My father's estate is worth millions. The trust's assets have purposes beyond beneficiary distributions. He was confused. Marcus Bell opened the medical capacity report. Miriam did not look toward him yet. He was evaluated, she said. He demon, straight at full capacity. By Claire's doctor. By an independent physician selected by my office. My mother turned toward me. You arranged this? No. She arranged everything. Miriam's voice remained calm. Denise, the documents will be completed whether you interrupt or not. My mother became silent. At 8:36, Miriam opened the accounting report. The room changed. Until then, my mother still believed the estate was a negotiation. The report made it a record. Marcus explained the preserved bank statements, check images, transfers, and account destinations. $27,640 had been identified in unauthorized or unsupported transactions.
An additional $5,000 had been paid through the altered blank check. The false renovation estimate attempted to create a further $84,000 obligation, but had never been funded. The deceptive care authorization was invalidated. The trust had also identified the $50,000 education transfer Grandpa sent for me years earlier. My mother looked at my father. He stared straight ahead.
Miriam said, "Because that money was intended for Claire's education and was not used for that purpose, Walter treated it as an advance to Denise and Robert." My mother stood. "That was 20 years ago." "Sit down," her attorney said quietly. "We used it for the family." Miriam asked, "Do you have records showing how?" "We had bills." "Do you have records?" "No one keeps grocery receipts for 20 years." "The transfer was not for groceries." "We were raising children." One child received fully funded tuition. The other borrowed $38,000. My mother looked at me. "You told him." "The bank record told him." She turned to my father. "Say something." He looked at her. "I didn't know." "You knew we needed the money." "I didn't know it was hers." "You signed the return." "I didn't see the transfer." "You never see anything." The words crossed the table and landed where they belonged. My father lowered his eyes. At 8:48, Marcus presented the check signed while Grandpa was at the orthopedic clinic. The appointment record showed he could not have written it at the bank. At 8:53, Miriam displayed the motel registration. April Moreno described the afternoon my parents arrived. My mother's face lost color when April spoke. "He asked where they were going," April said. "The woman told him his family would contact him after he settled down." "I did not say that," my mother replied. April looked at her. "You did. You misunderstood." "I wrote it down before I knew any of these people." Miriam displayed the time-stamped parking lot photograph. 7 p.m. My parents' SUV leaving. Grandpa visible near the bench. My father covered his face with one hand. Evan whispered, "You left him outside?" My mother turned toward him. "You knew the plan." "I knew he was staying somewhere. I didn't know." "How you drove away?" "You were getting the house." Lauren looked at him. "So you did know." Evan shook his head. "Not like this." My mother's attorney asked for a break. Miriam declined. "We are almost finished." At 9:05, she placed the sealed envelope in front of her. The room went still. My mother sat down. Her bracelet no longer moved. Miriam broke the seal. She unfolded 2 pages. Walter instructed that this letter be read aloud in full. My mother stared at the paper. Miriam began. "To my family. If you are hearing this, then I am no longer able to correct the stories being told about my choices. That is why I wrote them down." My father closed his eyes. Miriam continued. "I loved my daughter before she knew the value of my house. I loved my son before he learned that silence could protect him from arguments. I loved my grandson before his plans became larger than his honesty. I loved my granddaughter before any of them noticed how much she could carry." My throat tightened. "I did not change my estate because Claire asked me. She never asked what she would receive. I changed it because Denise repeatedly asked what she could control." My mother's attorney looked down. "I was not confused when money left my account. I was ashamed. Shame made me slow to act. It did not make the transactions gifts." My mother's breathing became audible. "I was not abandoned at the Pine Rest Lodge because my family lacked another option. I was left there because fear was being used as a tool. A paid room does not turn abandonment into care." April lowered her eyes. "I forgive my daughter for becoming afraid of losing what she believed would save her. I do not give her the right to make that fear my final responsibility." My mother began crying. Miriam did not stop. To Robert, "You knew more than you admitted, and less than you should have asked. Your apology mattered because it finally contained facts. Whether it becomes a change is no longer mine to decide."
My father wiped his face. To Evan, a business cannot be saved by turning family into an unpaid bank. Build something smaller and tell the truth about its size. Evan looked at the table. To Claire, your mother often said you were never the one I trusted with important things. She was wrong. No one moved. You were the one I trusted with what was difficult, not because you were worth more, but because you understood that responsibility is not ownership. My mother looked at me. Her face was wet. Do not use the trust to punish anyone. Use it to protect people who are sitting where I sat, with one suitcase and nowhere safe to go. Miriam turned to the second page. This was not revenge. It was a record. Truth is not a hammer. It is the line that remains after every excuse has been erased. She read the final paragraph. If anyone in that room believes love should have changed the outcome, they are correct. Love should have changed their behavior long before,
or the outcome became necessary. Miriam lowered the pages. No one spoke. I counted 12 seconds. Then my mother looked at me. You did this. Her voice was barely audible. I looked at the brass key beside the envelope. No. He would never have written that without you. He lived it without me. You stole my father. My father raised his head. Denise. She ignored him. You sat in his house and turned every mistake into evidence. I thought about the gray folder, the credit card in her wallet, the covered forms, the torn ledger, the motel bench. Then I answered the line she had used for years. You were right about one thing. She stared at me. He did trust someone with the important things. Her face collapsed. Not dramatically. The structure simply left it. Evan pushed his chair back. How much do I owe? Marcus gave him the documented total connected to his business. $9,400, excluding the unsupported renovation estimate. I don't have that, Miriam replied. Then it will be deducted from your conditional distribution. So I get almost nothing. You receive the tools and compass regardless. Evan laughed bitterly. Tools. Grandpa had known exactly what he was leaving him. Not rescue, a way to work. My mother asked, what happens to our $60,000? Miriam reviewed the accounting deductions, the unauthorized transactions, the education transfer, the motel and legal costs. The amount exceeded the distribution. My mother would receive the personal items named in the will, but no cash unless the accounting claim was resolved through repayment or settlement. You're taking all of it, she said. No, Miriam replied. The trust is crediting amounts already received. My mother turned to my father. This is your fault. He looked at her. For the first time in my life, he did not look away. I signed the motel document. You did what I told you. Yes. You agreed. Yes. You cannot act innocent now. I'm not. She stopped. My father's voice shook, but he continued. I am saying I did it. The room became silent again. My mother looked almost frightened. He had stepped out of the empty space. Too late to save Grandpa. Not too late to stop protecting the lie. My mother gathered her handbag. Her attorney tried to speak with her. She walked out. The conference room door closed behind her at 9:22. Evan left 4 minutes later. Lauren remained. She asked Miriam for the name of an independent attorney. Then she removed her wedding ring and placed it inside her handbag. My father stayed in his chair. The watch lay on the table in front of me. I had brought it in a small brown box. Grandpa's note said I could give it to him if I believed he had finally told the truth. I did not know whether one honest morning could outweigh years of silence. It could not. Mercy was not a scale. I pushed the box across the table. My father looked at it. What is this? Grandpa's watch. His face changed. He left it to you, depending on whether I believed you finally told the truth. My father touched the box but did not open it. Do you? I believe you told the truth today. That isn't the same thing. No. He nodded.
I understand. The watch is still yours. He began crying. I did not tell him everything was forgiven. It was not. I did not tell him we could return to normal. Normal had helped create the damage. I only said, do something honest with the time you have left. He held the box with both hands. That sounds like him. It was mine. He almost smiled. Then the meeting ended. The consequences did not arrive at once. They came in packets. My mother settled the civil claims 6 months later. She sold the dining table, her jewelry collection, and the white SUV. The table brought less than a quarter of what Grandpa had paid for it. That felt appropriate. My father moved into a small apartment near his work. He and my mother separated. I did not celebrate. A marriage ending did not repair anything. It only stopped one arrangement from continuing. My father began attending counseling and volunteered twice a month at the residence after it opened. He never asked me to call him brave. He changed light bulbs, repaired drawers, drove residents to appointments, and went home. That was better. Evan closed Bennett Custom Interiors. The luxury townhome contract had never existed. There had been a discussion with a developer and one unpaid sample order. He sold the leased truck, paid his employees, and took a job with a local cabinet manufacturer. Lauren divorced him. 2 years later, he sent the trust a check for $1,200. The note said, "First repayment." No excuse attached. I deposited it. My mother collected Grandma's recipe box, pearl earrings, and blue bowl through her attorney. She did not speak to me for 11 months. Then I received a birthday card. It contained no apology. Only one sentence. I hope someday you understand I loved him too. I wrote nothing back. I already understood. Love had never been the only issue. Grandpa's house required 14 months of zoning reviews, safety inspections, structural work, and fundraising before it could open. We kept the brick exterior. We kept the dark green shutters. We kept the maple tree. The upstairs was converted into 3 bedrooms with an accessible lift. The downstairs den became a common room. The old storage room near the kitchen remained the laundry. The brass key was framed near the entrance. Beneath it, a small plaque read, "A safe door should open from the inside." We named the residence Hawthorne House, not after Grandpa. He had specifically forbidden that. No statues, he had written in the trust notes. No plaques with my face. Buy better mattresses instead. So we did. The first resident was a 76-year-old woman named Ruth, whose nephew had sold her car and emptied her savings account. She arrived with 2 grocery bags of clothes and a ceramic cat wrapped in a towel. The second was a retired mechanic whose daughter had left him at a bus station after he refused to sign over his pension. The third had spent 3 weeks sleeping in a friend's laundry room. Every person came with paperwork: bank statements, letters, expired identification, half-finished applications, proof that something had happened. And beneath the paperwork, the same wound. Someone they loved had treated their dependence as permission. On the first anniversary of Hawthorne House, I stood beneath the maple tree with my father. The leaves had turned red. He wore Grandpa's watch. It had stopped twice and been repaired once. "Do you think he would like this?" he asked. "No." My father looked surprised. He would complain about the cost of the lift, the width of the new driveway, and the coffee. My father laughed. Then I said, "He would stay anyway." We stood quietly. A resident opened the front door and called my name because the washing machine was making a strange sound. My father looked at me. Important things. I took the brass key from my pocket. I still carried it. Not because it opened the document box anymore. That box was empty. The records had been transferred to the trust archive. I carried it because Grandpa was right. Something could stop opening the old door and still remind you why the lock had changed. If you have stayed with me this far, comment the word record. Not because every family wound belongs in a file, but because your memory deserves respect when someone keeps telling you that what happened did not happen. Subscribe and stay for more stories where truth does not need to scream to remain standing. I used to believe quiet people lost because louder people controlled the room. Grandpa taught me something different. A quiet person can watch. A quiet person can remember. A quiet person can preserve the receipt, keep the key, read the page, and refuse to sign where someone else has covered the words. Dignity is not weakness. Mercy is not surrender. Forgiveness does not return access to the person who broke the lock. My parents believed Grandpa's money made him valuable. When they thought they had reached the end of it, they treated him like luggage they no longer wanted to carry. But the most important thing he left was not the house. It was the line he finally drew around his own life. That line protected people he would never meet. And that is my story. That is my story.